All right, you can do what you want now.
Yes, I'll call this meeting to order. Budget committee.
I better we do the same.
Mr. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, so we get this. Citizens' comments. Seeing none, we'll move right along. Operating budget.
So did you guys want to start where we left off on page 35? Which were the local service agencies? So our first one, and this was a new request, and this was from Light Flight, and that is the helicopter that you see on emergency scene that can evacuate people to the hospital when the EMS calls them in to do so. It was a $1,288 request. The EMS chief had requested to be here, however, he is not in. I didn't know if this is something you wanted to hold till he had his comments, or if you wanted to move ahead with it.
I'd like to hold it, because I believe he's got some discussion
Yes.
possibly on this.
I just wanted to say they were the only organization that didn't supply the financials that I think Brendan had asked for. Brendan had asked for financials from all social service and community service requesters. And they're the only ones that I didn't get anything from.
What time is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Move right along.
Next 90/30 is Healthy Kids. They provide lunch during the summer for throughout our community. Lucy, the lunch wagon, that is the lunch wagon that goes to various areas in town and distributes food. And they also sponsor other healthy living events for children. I will just say that typically they've been parking Lucy here in town behind the firehouse and EMS. They've been wonderful to work with, and they go to I believe 6 spots now in Waldeboro and deliver meals. And it's anybody from birth to 18 years old that can get the meals during the summer. John?
John, go ahead.
Looking at their letter, their request, which is in the packet here somewhere.
You can find it, right?
Their request was probably lower than that number.
2,500.
Yeah. The select board and the budget committees in years past have taken, because they've never asked and they've done good work in the past, they've always upped their request.
Does it say how many kids in there that they service now? Does it? I was just gonna look at the paper, but I think you have it from you. You would know.
So 339 students at Milton School receive monthly age appropriate family gift on. Just telling them Sam the food they give them.
That's like $10 a piece. That's pretty cheap. And this happens from the post office.
Yes. They were also very instrumental in helping us obtain food. They're one of the places that we call when our community navigator would need immediate food services. Like I said, that number has been increased by the budget committee and select board during the budget process over the years. I think they'd be fine if you left it. I think, you know, like I said, they're,
You said you requested 25.
Yeah, the request in the letter is 2,500. It's kind of like we did with the library, you know, we tried to give the library some more money and they didn't want it. 'cause they
well,
said,
I
"Oh,
will
good
tell
with it."
you, they always accept it graciously. Always say
Well, I'm
that.
sure they did.
Yeah, they do.
You said, it only figures out to be about $10 a kid roughly. Go ahead.
Um. 2023, 2024, they asked for 25 and it says we gave them 32.30.
Yeah,
So how did they get 39.30 at the current budget?
because we cut some, if I remember right, we cut up something somewhere else and we gave them a little bit more.
Yes,
We cut, I
you
believe.
do that every year for them.
What we cut,
I think it's this guy's fault right here.
I think it
Point at
was,
Bob or Abden?
No, it happened every year.
we got rid of one or two programs that were not giving us any information, they were just giving requests and they weren't coming in or anything, so we took and took their money away and we added it to that.
You were here for this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how it creeped up.
I'll give you that. You're right, Abden.
We added $700 last year.
Yep.
Took it from Spectrum.
Right, that's what I was just gonna say.
And I think that's all that Spectrum was getting as well, correct?
Right, and I think you guys looked at it, Healthy Kids, I don't think it's asked for an increase in years.
They don't need to ask for an increase. You could.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, you started this last year too.
I'm not saying I was, I'm
Okay.
not, and I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying,
Anybody
why do
who
they
was
need
here
to
last
ask?
year should remember that.
They're gonna give me one anyway.
That's right. If I keep asking for 2,500, I'm gonna have 5,000 here pretty quick.
Anybody else got any other comments?
I just want to say I really like what they do.
I do too.
Nice that we support them the way we like.
100%.
And another $700. Yeah, it's a little more maybe than they requested, but.
No.
No, it's the same as,
It's the same as last year.
it's the same as
But their
last year.
request was 25,000.
Right.
That's what I'm referring to.
Okay.
So your point's made, when we're giving them. Adjusting and giving them. I would move, go with 39.34.
I'll second it.
Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Ms. Swanton? And that's not an increase, that's flat, status quo,
Flat.
status quo.
Okay, we've got $3,930 for Healthy Kids. Do we have a motion? Ruben? Second. Who wants the second? Scott?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Ready to vote? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Good. All right, moving on to New Hope for Women.
Yes, this was, this is their request this year is $1,886. And they provide services to victims of domestic abuse. I had written in here that Chief Lash would like to be a part of this discussion. He has since decided he would not like to be a part of this discussion. And they service 65 residents of Waldeboro, requiring a total of 206.1 hours of staff time. And this is a service that is utilized through our community navigation.
It's $9 an hour. So. I had some questions answered that I had strong questions about. They were answered. Anybody else got any comments, questions? So I'd like to make the motion.
I'll move, $1,886 for New Hope for Women.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Okay, we get $1,886 for New Hope for Women. We have a motion, Thanks, John. Second,
Second.
Scott, you again? Gonna use all yours up right away, right? Okay,
Well, he's make up the last meeting.
yeah, that's right, that's right. Any discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
All right, I guess we have a new request for Kennebec Behavioral Health.
Yes. Kennebec Behavioral Health offers clinic-based services, including medication management and outpatient counseling for mental health, substance use disorder, and co-occurring disorders throughout central Maine. Kennebec has requested $90 to help offset the cost of providing uncompensated care to Waldeboro residents. And this would equal $10 per resident that they service this year, so they're requesting $90. And they serviced 9 Waldeboro residents, totaling 126 clinical visits, and that included providing $6,408.43 in uncompensated healthcare to residents who were either underinsured or had no insurance, and they are asking us to contribute $90 to that.
Make a motion to move $90 to the Kennebec Behavioral Health.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
My question is, why only $90?
It's $10 a family, 9 families,
Yeah, but that's just
formula.
a token.
It's a token.
Yeah,
And if,
to get there.
and if you looked at their financials,
They probably get a lot of grants.
they have a lot of,
so this would
they have,
help leverage other grants.
resources behind them. I think it's
Yeah.
a nominal, just an acknowledgement that
Yeah, okay, yeah. That makes sense.
they're doing good work.
Is this a resource that law enforcement, the police can use?
That I do not know. I am not sure. I believe we've reached out through community navigation once to this organization, but I know at least at one time. I don't know how the other 8 got there.
Discussion? None, all those in favor?
Okay, we've got $90 for Kennebec Behavioral Health. We have a motion. Ben, second, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
We'll move on to Spectrum Generations. Last year was what, $4,000, this year you want $4,700?
They do, and they have provided, services to 89 residents, and they have delivered a total of 2,293 Meals on Wheels to our residents, and I just want to point out, they have been phenomenal with us this year through our community navigation program. When I filled in for Karen Ann over the summer, there were 3 seniors that needed assistance. One was a family who needed assistance with placement for a family member. And they really did not have the resources to deal with this. It literally took me 2 phone calls, and they were right there to help, got me to who I needed to get to, followed up with me. And it's one of my top 10 community navigation stories of a success story where somebody who really, really needed to be in a assisted living facility. One of our dear residents got placed there because they needed it. And the family was not capable of really helping the situation. And to me, it was one of the biggest success stories that we've had. Out of over 1,000 stories, definitely one of the top 10.
Go ahead, Bob. I was just saying that's a pretty reasonable amount to pay for a resource that we have we can use. I mean, it's not even talking about the meals, which are a little more than $2 a piece. Having that part of the health network that we create through the community.
That elder care,
Huge.
that elder care assistance is something that we were lacking. And I can't tell you how many calls that we get regularly, even for families that are suffering with, dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia. And I know you don't normally call the town for that, but you would be amazed what people call the town for. But this gave us, a resource to pass along. And like I said, they have been so helpful to us in those areas.
Anybody else got questions? So I would entertain a motion.
I move that we spend $4,700 for Spectrum Generations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Okay, 4,700 for Spectrum Generations. Do we have a motion? Thank you, Billy.
Second.
Thanks, Scott. Any more discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Food pantry, so we're going to veggies to take.
This is a local farm that grows food and distributes food to. In 2023, they donated over 12,336 pounds of fresh vegetables. And organic produce to 35 organizations, of which the Waldoboro Food Pantry is one of them. And they have sent out this request to all their organizations, communities that receive the donations. I will tell you that when we ran the food pantry for the 3 months during COVID, they were a large source of the vegetables that we provided to the residents on a weekly basis. And I'm sure they would be open to take any size donation that you see fit.
I've been at the food pantry when they deliver their stuff. It's just a huge, great big containers.
We've sorted many of their bins.
Yes,
They actually, during COVID, gave me the code to get into the coolers so that we could pick up our food. And I used to go, that the night before we would distribute, go in, take out the boxes, load them in my truck, and then bring them the next morning to be able to distribute. And I believe, Jan, you were our #1 vegetable fruit sorter. And then Billy,
The shampoo lady.
and then if there was anything that wasn't perfect, we would put out, and Billy Bragg would take them to a farm here in, Waldoboro for the local farm animals to utilize.
he used everything.
We
You-
used everything.
You couldn't buy close to that amount of food.
And I want to point out that, there are several volunteers here tonight who were amazing when we were running the food pantry. Who were here with us. Derek remembers setting up for the food pantry, packing bags, boxes, all. So. And I do believe you were here for several of those, more than several of those. Helping us.
Forget her name.
No, I was like, I thought it was Amelia. I was like, yes, she's gotten so thin that I,
Nice recovery.
no, it's true. She knows.
All right, is there any more discussion? Go ahead, Bob.
They're not a nonprofit based on what their letter has said, but maybe they just neglected to mention that.
I can find out.
It doesn't bother me at this point. If what they're doing is amazing, especially with all the volunteers, they can help out with what they're doing. But maybe a question for next year.
Okay. Well, I can find out and I can report back to you.
I go ahead and move $1,000 for the.
Is there a second?
One second.
there any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
How about $1,000 for veggies to table? It's not,
good.
not peanuts, but
Compared to what we've been doing, it is.
Hmm.
They did have $176,000 in net revenue last year.
Yeah, I do believe they do sell, like they do, I know they sell a lot of flowers and I think they also do.
Their
sell
sales from
fruit.
flowers were negligible, only a few $1,000s. They get a lot of donations.
A lot of
and stuff.
donations.
But they did have an extremely large net revenue. That's a lot of money.
so what do they do with that?
Well, they can use it for the next year's operations. It's not a profit, but if it was a corporation, it would be viewed as a profit maybe, but they can use it for next year's operating expenses. So let's say they're funded. If their expenses were $70,000 and they had a net revenue of 180,000, then they're funded for the next 2.5 years.
Hmm.
You received $243,000 in unrestricted donations.
Right.
For
Right,
the, for the
yep.
period of the year. That
Yep.
doesn't include grants. They had some grant money.
And a restricted donation is something that they, of course, they have to use for certain reasons, but an unrestricted, they use it any way they want.
From the amount that was being requested, it almost sounded like a shoestring operation, but that doesn't sound like a shoestring
It's
operation to
not,
me.
no, it's not.
Is this a local
Oh, yeah.
It's a
organization?
local organization. They're right in Newcastle.
They made over $9,000 selling dahlia tubers.
$346,000 in total revenue. Yeah, $346,816 in total revenue, total cost of goods, Gross
I can
profit,
find out if
three-
they're a nonprofit if you want to
Yeah.
hold, because we have to come back for like,
Guess it's up to we've already voted on it, but I guess it's up to the budget committee if they want to table it.
What do you think? Does anyone wanna move to table it or?
I just assume vote on it. $1,000, they give us a whole lot more than $1,000 and they do that for 34 other organizations. I couldn't put a price on the amount of food they give us.
So I'd like to make a motion to move $1,000 for veggies to table.
We have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Scott. I saw their letter before, and I'm having a hard time finding.
You want to share the letter with
it's in
no.
the,
The
it's the
social
last,
service.
the
Yeah,
last one in between two pink pages or orange pages.
Veggies table, there it is. So is this an organization that networks farmers to collect the vegetables but for the food pantries?
So my understanding is that they have fields, and I don't want to misrepresent where they are, but this organization maintains fields throughout Lincoln County. I think the concentration of them is in Newcastle, potentially Noblesboro, and I think there's a couple in Damascotta, but I will find out if everybody's drinking.
That field on Route 1, is that one of their fields?
I don't want
By-
to say it is and then have it not be. I think it is, but I'm not sure.
So what's the question? Because I just sent an email to them about the nonprofit status. I didn't ask.
Where their fields are.
Okay. No problem.
No, they're making enough money that the IRS would certainly be interested in it. Do they file tax forms? I mean,
If they're a nonprofit, they have to file a 990.
well, I mean, have they filed with the IRS?
This is the first.
A lot of money to try to hide.
Yeah, I know, it's a lot of money.
No, I'm sure they do. I don't know how they're incorporated. They incorporated as a 501 or are they?
So my experience was with them getting food and what the letter that was put in the packet, that's the information that I have. And what Peg, they sent to Peg and provided to you when you asked to see their financials.
Yeah.
I don't know if their financials say what type of organization they are.
Statement of activity is all I have.
It's a nonprofit based in Newcastle.
They do say, this is one reason why non-profit farms come, which implies that they are.
Well, I think you just looked it up.
Yeah.
I was about to do that.
Yeah.
So they said in the letter that they get volunteers and students to help work on the farms.
Right, they had 116 unique volunteers and students working 4,400 plus hours as part of their production. That's probably why they can clear some money.
They also donate money to the farms, you know, the farm program at the Y.
Yes.
And to Healthy Lincoln, I think they,
Yeah.
which we just
Partner.
funded,
Partner with.
for their lunches.
I think $1,000 towards their efforts is a nice thank you for what they do.
And I don't think we should penalize a successful, well-run nonprofit.
We're ready to vote.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay,
We can only deal with life flights, so I guess we'll move on to.
Well, do you want to start back at page 1 or continue from where we are?
No, I'll go back to page 1. Let's start.
Let's start at the beginning.
Let's show how the selectmen are dedicated to this thing.
First department is Office of the Select Board. They did not show an increase of any funding this year. However, I just would like to remind you that they sacrificed their stipend last year of their annual stipend that they would get for $1,490 a year. In 2024, they opted to take no salary because we were facing a large increase last year. So I left it as 0. It's not a reflection of any opinion I have on it either way, but if that's something that you wanted to reinstate, this would be the point to talk about it.
given the difficulty for the select board to put money in on their own plates here, would the budget committee be appropriate in discussing it first and suggesting
It
a
probably would.
number? Or you could
Whatever you
pass
think,
0 and then we could argue with that.
I guess maybe I will ask the select board what they would like to do, if they would rather have the budget committee make that decision.
We can't go
And
down.
send us a request to us, John.
I'll move the 25,765 as presented without a stipend.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? I guess you don't have to make that.
Now you can if you want.
Well, okay, we didn't discuss any of the other line items very deeply here, did we? The select board has given us a number of $25,765. We have a motion from the budget committee.
Second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Questions, ideas?
There were no increases, but I'll just remind everybody that 8590 is the miscellaneous. That was originally established for the fuel fund for unknown increases for fuel, oil, diesel, and gasoline.
That seems like a nice cushion to
It
have.
does. I'm not going to lie to you, not never knowing what it's going to do.
Yeah,
It's been helpful.
just
And I
get
will tell
back
you, the
into
most
the,
agonizing decision that Peg and I make during the year is when we lock in our fuel oil price.
Hmm.
I cannot tell you how much agony goes in to that decision where we're, you know, looking on, you know, line for guidance from the powers of the stock market to see what oil prices are doing.
yeah,
And then the other thing to think about when you see diesel or gasoline prices within each department, and if they're over. That's why it says 202 and the 2023 actual line here, it's 0, because I'm not coding it to a miscellaneous, because otherwise I can't capture the actual diesel costs for each department.
so you add it to the
I don't do anything.
environment.
You guys said it was okay to have the number that you had for that particular budget year, but the
Okay,
diesel is still the diesel and accounting. So it gives it. With the volatile prices of gasoline.
Think that we get it back, that before we vote on the 25.
yep,
Just let vote, have to vote on that. I was just voting on letting, on the, what we get paid. So we'll have to back up.
oh, I thought,
No, that was.
no, I thought John,
Just the salary.
No, he did the whole
okay.
thing.
Oh, sorry.
He
All right. I'm
he
sorry.
moved the whole thing.
I didn't realize that. Okay. Well, go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
okay, yeah, confusion is better figured out. Okay, so speaking of fuel prices, the select board does have to get to their meetings and
We're not compensated. We don't even get a mileage allowance.
right, and you used to get $1,490 a year apiece for a stipend. And how many meetings a year do you have to attend?
24 plus these, plus the other ones. There's a lot of meetings.
A lot of meetings, yeah.
Probably 35, probably. Maybe.
When it was $14.90, how long was it? When was the last time it was adjusted?
It's been that way for a
Long time.
You don't have to go back in time super far for the price of fuel to go in half.
Hmm. I would be in favor of restoring at least the previous stipend. I don't know, I don't think I can make a motion, right?
No,
So
somebody else should.
I'll just put it out there.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Ruben.
They're trying to give money to people who don't want it.
It happened with the library.
Well, we could ask, but they could reconsider and refuse it.
If the motion isn't seconded, it dies.
If someone doesn't want it, can you just give it back?
Yeah, they could turn it back into the general fund. Do we have a second on the motion to add 7,450 to the total of 25,765?
Second.
Okay, is there any more discussion on that? Billy?
Would it be proper to poll the select board to take their thoughts on this?
Certainly could ask.
I'd like to poll the selectmen personally, one-on-one, because I mean, we had Kathy the other night for the library and she had a figure and we tried to give her more and some of the selectmen around the table didn't wanna give her a penny more. Go with what she requested. So, I would just like to see how the selectmen feel.
They already voted for it. They already voted for nothing.
Well, that's my point I'm trying to make here, Ben.
I'd also like to consider getting future people on the select board. Some people are very comfortable, can afford to take nothing in compensation for the work. there might be some great minds out there that need that little bit of help to come be part of that group.
And you got 2 positions coming up for election.
I still want to.
I personally, me, I could care less either way.
Well,
Yeah, I don't care. I'm not running, so.
To Ruben's point is, if Will's not running, if I don't get reelected, the people behind us, you know, like,
Yeah, I'm thinking about it like retention.
Yeah.
Or like getting talent.
Oh, let's not go the retention route here. We need term limits.
look at it, are you in it for the money, are you in it
Never
to
been
do
in it
the
for
job?
I get a surprise every spring when I was getting the check. I do so many things for free. It's
Oh, I hear
it's a
you.
shock to me sometimes.
You know, if you're gonna do it just to try to get another $1,400, you know, in your pocket, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that.
You understand?
Oh, I do, but maybe the person behind me doesn't.
Oh, it's always sobering to understand what you're really God, you're worth your weight in gold. No, you're worth your weight in gold. Sorry, I feel the way Abdul does. I just, we don't do this for the money. We do it because we're able to sit down with a great group of people and have conversations like this. Get things done, hopefully.
Well, last year when it was discussed, it was. We talked about taking it off, we were also informed that if we needed to, we could fill out mileage. Going to certain meetings, and stuff, but again.
Nobody's taken advantage of it.
No one taking
Nobody
advantage,
did?
yeah.
No.
So we've had that option.
You had that option. And they still would have that option,
They
correct,
still
Julie?
would. Yes, they still would. They've just never taken advantage of it.
35, 40 cents from my house deal.
In that truck? Jeez.
You didn't even throw off.
Just starting it up cost. then,
No, most of the
huh?
time, it's not running because it's a Ford.
Oh, Julie.
Just so that, I'm gonna buy a Ford.
Humor there. Just in
Totally.
half of the town, I'm sorry.
Well, it does seem like, at least publicly, none of the selectmen are gonna admit interest in a stipend. And it would be adding 7450 to the budget. So I. We want to vote on do we have a motion we have a motion and second to add that in? So I guess unless there's other discussion, let's vote on that. All those in favor of adding the stipend back in, contrary to the wish of the select board? One in favor, anyone else? Thank you, Ruben.
You tried.
All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, motion failed miserably. We tried. So we'll go back to the.
I
original
appreciate
motion.
your efforts
Well,
in keeping me solvent.
yes, yes, you all should be solvent. So we're back to the figure of 25,765 for the office of the select board. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? We had a motion originally, didn't we?
I had it, I think.
Yeah. And then we had an amendment, so. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Rubber stamp even off. Office.
Office of Town Manager, that would be my office. Basically, the increase here is 13,627, and that would be mostly in, the majority of it is, all of it was $15 would be in compensation for payroll and employee benefits, and that's for 1.8 employees.
We'd like to make a motion on that.
I think with real value for money, and I would move 171, 741 for the office for the town.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And one abstention, 4-1. 4-0-1, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, Budget Committee has the figure of $171,741 for the Office of the Town Manager. Bill, Ben,
Question, please.
move the question,
Move the amount to.
the amount, okay.
I second that.
Second, John, any discussion? Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Tim. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I'll just add that I am very blessed to work for the town of Waldeboro, to be partners with all of our employees and volunteers. It is truly a special place, and I'm always impressed with the team that I have and how hard they work and how much they actually have the love of the town in their hearts.
Well, thank you.
All right, move on to assessor services.
So, the total for this budget is $103,191. And the increase is 5,317. Portion of that is due to software upgrades through our system that we have online now. That was a change a couple years ago, and payroll and benefits.
We didn't use last year. We roll that over.
So you just never know when it comes to the actual billing and stuff, what he's going to need. We could cut it back if we wanted to. Because
Does he
the
still-
year before, he only used 1704 of it.
Cut it back to 100.
Does that sound all right? Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking you haven't used any this year, so we're probably gonna have leftover from this year, but for 2025. So minus 350. Minus 350, 350 bucks.
So that line would be 100.
Yeah, to 100, yeah, correct.
Okay.
Negligible. I wouldn't have said anything if he had used it in 2024, but he hasn't used it.
What's the potential for needing that money?
I think we're okay with that.
Yeah, okay.
He might need a new bulletproof. You guys laugh, he has a bulletproof clipboard.
Oh, yeah.
Hope it's fast.
Captain America.
He really does have one. I don't think the town bought it, but it is an interesting talking point.
All right, so minus.
Do you want the new total?
Yes, new total.
102,841,
Okay,
$102,841.
Would somebody like to make that a motion?
I would move 102,841 to the assessment services.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 1-0.
Yeah, 102,841 for assessment services. We have a motion.
A question. Can you explain the, under the equipment R and M, the discrepancy in the. What's in the budget and the overspending and where does the money come to take care of that? And what does all that mean? If someone doesn't know.
Those are the fees that we pay for the municipal software. And let me look at what else, what other details I can find in there. But if it rolls up, it's the number you don't want to go over is the total. The individual line items, we do our best to stay within.
Okay, great.
So,
That's
does that answer?
it does.
More?
That's for me. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, do we have a motion for 102,841?
So move.
Thank you, Billy.
Second.
Scott? It'd be faster, John. Scott's right on it tonight. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
All right, moving along. Finance and customer service.
Okay, you want me to start and you can fill in?
Go ahead.
So finance and customer service would encompass the finance and tax collection function. It also includes the BMV function, the function that everybody loves here in town. So I'll just give a little bit of history here. In 2020, facing a budget that was unknown, the budget committee and the select board made some rough decisions regarding the town office. We used to have there was a town clerk, a tax collector, and essentially like a receptionist assistant and the same person served as an assistant to our finance director. That person retired and that position was left unfilled. Over the last few years, we've talked about doing some different things in the office with technology that could potentially help with some of the chores as far as like payroll or things like that. We even did put in a part-time position, I think 3 years ago. And I believe we cut that out of the budget at that point too. I put this in the budget this year because we're going to have a retirement in the future. And what has worked well for us in the town in many different positions is having the this potential replacement for the person who's exiting, work under them for a period of time. It worked well in EMS. It worked well and is working well in Public Works. It's worked well with the town clerk's position. And I will tell you right now, I am not a tax collector. If you'll recall, I took the clerk's position for a while. But I am not a tax collector and I am not a BMV specialist. I can re-register your car if you're lucky. I can re-register your car. If it's a private sale, I am totally lost. So that is something that has worked really well for our community, I think, in training people then to take over a position. I realize it's a big ask. It's 32 hours. It's a 32-hour ask. At 32 hours, though, you do qualify for health benefits, and that's a retention. And well, technically, at this point, it would be a recruitment tool. And part of the issue is finding someone who is going to be a certified tax collector, who is also a BMV agent, is not as easy as one would think. The hardest positions right now to find replacements for are your tax assessors, your tax collectors, and your code enforcement officers. We also did this with our code enforcement our current code enforcement officer. He worked under Stan for almost a year. So I put this position in there. I know it's a big ask. What we envision of this person is essentially being out front as a deputy to the tax collector, assist with the town clerk, and also help peg. So it's a jack of all trades. One of the things I want to point out is if we do have two people out, and we had this recently out front, that requires two people from the back office. I'm one of those people. And I'm just gonna say it out here. I do not mind working out front. I actually enjoy it. I mean, they laugh at me, but I do quite enjoy getting out there. Because I think it's great to have contact with the public and makes you more visible, and you learn a lot at the counter. But I did think that it was appropriate to ask. Like I said, we realize it's a big ask. We are one of the smallest, we are the largest community in Lincoln County and our neighboring communities. And there are towns that have a larger staff than we do. I'm very proud of what we do with the number of staff we have and the services we provide. And we always make do, we always have, and I'm very proud of that fact that the staff, no matter what has been asked of them, has always come through. And I think the select board has seen that, and the budget committee members who have been here for quite some time have seen that. We'll do whatever you want, but that would be our request for this year. Peg, do you have anything to add?
No, just what you were talking about with the counter activity. This time of year, I always like to look at how many transactions we actually did at the counter. And there were 15,598 transactions put through. 76% of them were done by the tax collector. We added rapid renewal, which was a really nice way to add online services for people to renew their automobile registrations during COVID. And so we continue to do that, but the numbers, they've actually gone down. So people are actually coming in more than they're doing it online, if you compare year to year. In 2023, we had 773 rapid renewal registrations versus 5,132 here at the town office. I just thought that was kind of interesting facts. Some other times people have talked about the motor vehicle agent fees offsetting the salary costs, because you have to look at all of those things. So last fiscal year, the agent fee we brought in from the counter work that we did was $24,000. This is on the revenue side, of course, $24,375. I just thought you might find that interesting as well. I know over the years during budget time, we've talked about getting help for me. And so I would appreciate a little bit of help. I usually say no, because I'm also very conservative, naturally and for the town. But if we bring somebody in at 32 hours, while someone is leaving at around 32 hours, there's actually a little bit of cost savings there that I can recognize. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had. Anything else, Julie, you think?
John had his hand up. Sorry about it.
A comment and two questions. One is my experience with going to the counter here has been absolutely amazing. Every time I've come here, it's just been great. Question one is, what's the period of overlap? Meaning, how many months are we talking about?
So I put in here for 12 months,
12 months. Okay,
a full year.
right. And you feel that that's required?
I think it is. Yes, I think there's a lot when you're dealing with the tax collection piece. We're not only talking about this collecting money, but you're also talking about the liens. You're talking about, there's a lot that goes into it. And
there's cyclical events.
And
You have your tax due date, that's twice a year. So if someone worked a whole year, they could have an opportunity to deal with two that's just that little piece of
In
the
order to
puzzle.
capture all the
Right,
events that
and then if
happen.
they were the deputy town clerk, they would have however many elections we could anticipate next year. So
And
there's certain things you only do once a year, twice a year, quarterly, weekly.
thank you for explaining it. Second question is under audit services. In 2023, we budgeted 8,000, but we spent nothing. 2024, we budgeted 8,000 and we spent 18,400.
What do you think that is?
I have
That's
no idea.
It's because they were
They
late.
they were
on it.
behind. they were
Yeah,
3 years
so that was
behind.
2 years of audit
Yeah.
fees in the wrong year.
Okay, all right. So then what you're saying is it's gonna average. It's gonna.
It'll
average
level out.
Okay,
It'll level out. They're charging us 10,000 a year right now.
okay.
So 8,000 comes out of this budget and 2,000 comes out of the transfer station.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
We're down. Am I wrong?
You're wrong.
I'm wrong.
Okay.
Okay, she looked at me and I knew I was wrong.
We also have a fixed asset management
That's what it is.
service through them. That's also part of the professional fees we pay to the auditors.
And who are the auditors?
R.A. Smith out of Buxton.
Thank you.
So it's not that the auditors can't count.
No, and I mean, believe me, the select board had them in and the auditor sat right there and explained. We basically were catching up from COVID. It was basically they're doing their audits remotely.
Hmm.
Then they came through ours, so we kept having this, well, when you can come, sometimes wasn't the best for us, like year end is not the best time for them to show up when Peg's doing what she's doing, which is our fiscal year end is June 30th, 31st, that was almost crazy. But from here on out, we should be good, and they've already started our 2023 audit, so they made up for 2 years, and select board held their feet to the fire over that tremendously. Yeah, they all did.
Bob made us aware of it.
And
Kept us. Go ahead. No.
So, along with John's question of the overlap, how much, I guess, how much training do you anticipate the new,
the best way
Hire
to
would-
train for that job, and I'm gonna use me as an example. I can take a tax payment and I can do a re-reg. I'm not out there enough to know what to do when a fleet vehicle comes in. I'm not out there enough when Northeast comes in and has a truck that has a lot of tires on it. I know they have
get
18
out of the
wheels.
way?
I know they have 18 wheels.
I can count.
But there are things that are in that brain that have been here for so long that they just know. And that's a hard thing to replace. And the only way you
Sure.
learn is to do. And I think Pam could back me up on that because, Pam's our most recent BMV person. I will tell you, there was a point where both front-facing employees were out there was myself and Tanya out there. And
then they asked me to help them.
and then we asked our select board chair to stay and answer phones, and he was just like, I gotta get to work. And scurried
Something to do.
very quickly. But if you're not doing it every day, it's hard to know. And I will tell you, I can't give you a hunting or a fishing license either. So you have to know all of these little things. And
So how much of this knowledge do you have to acquire on a job somewhere, and how much is in the formal training? I mean, obviously a tax collector has to go through
so
schooling
you can
for it.
take the course. I took the
Yeah.
course to register 18 wheelers, and I
There's
took
multiple courses.
there's a
for-
lot of courses you
Right.
have to go through, and I took all of those, and my retention of that from not doing it on a daily basis is 0. And when you look at the book, it's going to tell you what you should do, and then you got to figure out our computer system to do it. So it's not like there's like this one easy,
Yeah.
this is how you do it. And again, there's a lot of little things that you just don't realize, you know?
Hmm.
I could not explain what an SR 22 is to people. I just know if you don't know what it is, that's a good thing. Everybody gets asked that question. I'm just saying that
The
it's,
file for insurance.
I'm just saying that, it does give us flexibility, you know, because somebody can decide to leave quicker. Somebody can,
Hmm.
you know, so I would just like to have that flexibility. Like I said, a year has seemed to work really well, for us. If you guys see differently, that's open for discussion. Like I said, we will make whatever we need to do work. My concern is just finding somebody who can just step right into that is not going to be easy, and it's going to cost more than what we're paying now.
And I also increased the training and travel budgets, anticipating a possible second.
And that's the one thing I wanna explain. And we touch on this every year with the select board. They ask us to always keep up to date on salary surveys. And this isn't a complaint. But the general government salaries and wages for the town of Waldeboro are low
Shocking.
compared to other towns. So I'm just letting you know that that's not a complaint. It's not an indictment at all. It's just they are low when you compare them to other communities of a comparable size. And the services that we provide.
Mike, do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to point something out, which was that it's always dangerous to say that this is going to result in a temporary tax increase, but this really is a temporary thing. Because this is a new staff that's only going to be on staff for a year. It's not like we're adding a permanent employee that's going to affect out budgets. So I would be in favor of this budget as it stands.
Peg, I don't see much of anything in here for the courses. Does the town pay for the courses?
So MMA has the main tax, there's like a whole
Okay,
main
so we,
tax collector. So when we belong to that, it
You're
gives
right.
us discounted classes, and some are online and some you can go to.
okay, I just want to make sure that, I just wondered if who was paying for that or if the person taking the job was paying.
I think the town typically pays for
Typically,
education.
For their certifications?
Yep.
Okay.
And that would be the kind of nice thing to have to do. It's not gonna scare someone away. You have the tax collector and the town clerk that you're working with and learning from, and then you go take your course, either in motor vehicle or tax liens or tax whatever, and then you come back and you're able to apply what you've learned. It's just a nice way to.
Tell them they're doing it all wrong, right?
You learn something new every day.
Sometimes you do, and I just want to point out, like, I don't think I don't do a good job of saying this, but you know, when you look at our tax assessor, we went through a revaluation. Typically, I had to bring it up, I know. Typically, like, that's something that other towns pay significantly to do. Their assessor does not have the training to do that. And he got paid the same he did the year before as he did that year to carry out that task. Same thing with these liens and things that go through in tax sales and there's been a lot of legal changes to those. A lot of times that gets handed out to an outside or company to do. Or, you know, you just sell the tax liens and then people get foreclosed upon. Our community has been great in the fact that the select board has always kept those things here. We haven't sold liens like a lot of towns do because it's easier. And that way they have a part in that decision making, and it's not just left up to somebody who decides, okay, I'm just going to foreclose, and they may not know the whole story. So I've always been very proud of how they've handled that. At least because it was significantly different. My experience in my past had been significantly different than coming here.
All right,
I have a question.
go ahead, sir.
So looking at 20-45 postage and mailing service, can we take $7,000 from that? We've only spent $350, budgeted $99.
Timing, it's a timing thing of when we replenish the postage.
Okay.
It depends on what we.
That, you get another vote, budget vote coming up in June, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of absentee ballots you're gonna vote for as well.
Yeah, so that's where that'll come.
Yeah, it's just,
And
it's time.
Typically, this is the mailing of the tax bills.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I had one more question on the advertising piece.
Sure.
Looks like, we budgeted 1234, only used $100. Year before, we only used $530.
Yep.
So. Is there any wiggle room with that?
Yeah, I think there might, well, part of the advertising goes for jobs. And
Okay.
we've struggled trying to hire because it's a challenge in certain positions. So the job ads are so expensive, the paper,
Yes.
but are they productive? So that's my only concern with that.
Okay.
If we have, but we could try and take it down.
I was
That's what.
I'm just picking through it, that's all. And one more question, you know what I, so if we were to add another position. Would we be able to? Open up for another day on a Friday for a half a day? And offset the shift so that that person is getting training.
So part of the issue with Fridays is that we're gonna require 2 people here. And to get the late night, and we've went round and round and round on this, and we just changed hours recently. I think everybody, I mean, when the original hours were cut from 40 and we went to 32, and now they're at 36. That's where they've been for the last 4 years. I just don't know how if we're gonna open up, I think everybody has to be here. So that would be then another cost to the budget, and it hasn't seemed to be something people have wanted to do. And I think people are used to now because all of the other towns around us are a 4-day. I think people are pretty much used to that. I'm not saying it's optimal. I mean, we just went through it. Pam just went through it the other, back in December, and because we can keep track of when people are coming in. So we were staying till we were 9 to 7 on Tuesdays. And we went now to 8 to 6 because most of the people were coming in from 5 to 6 and not a lot from 6 to 7. But since we've been open at 8, they've seen an increase between 8 and 9. So I think we're capturing that. We're open to that.
The other piece is the staff gets paid 36 hours a week. That's their work week. So if we went to that as a cost saving, it was a budget.
Yeah.
It was a budget decision to take the day, to take the Friday, just try to save the money. So if we went to 5 days. I don't know, how would we?
We'd have to go to 40 hours.
Well, 4, yeah.
Yeah, I would
40
think we
hours for
would.
half a day, 8 to 12.
Yeah.
Since that's when your most traffic is, right, in the morning.
Yeah.
But then you're paying that. We have to add that in to that.
Right. Just thought.
No, and like I said, every once in a while on Facebook, we get you need to be open. Most of the time it's, you need to be open on a Saturday. And part of the reason is that the state's not open on a Saturday. So, that's where we're at. Well, I think somebody had a question.
On mine.
Go ahead.
So we can anticipate this being this budget increase. A one-time thing, at the end of the year, we have a person that's gonna retire. So the compensation portion of that is gonna drop back down.
I'm hopeful that that's what it would do. I
Oh,
am
just
careful. Well, because I never like to say it's not going to happen. I don't think it will. But I will say this. Having that, again, we're down one full person to where we were 4 years ago. It would be nice to stay at that level. But I know that it's much easier to do it with somebody who might be more. If we get somebody and we can train them in multitasking or, heck, what I'm looking for, the
Cross training?
cross training, thank you. Cross training them to be more then I would say yes. If it is just too much, we might have to have a part-timer.
So
At
you
least,
couldn't say yes and you wouldn't say no, but you might say maybe.
that's exactly it. Because I never want to say, and then somebody can come back and say, you said
Like being at the doctor's office.
cutting tax, it's like when you say, oh, well, that'll make that go down. You don't say that because you never know. Because you know it won't. Exactly. But the intent is there.
But this is a replacement for a retired.
This is
person.
the intent, yes. I just like to keep reminding you, though, that we are down from where we were.
So this is budgeting for a full year of an additional employee, but
But at 32 hours a week.
32 hours, but it's quite likely that we might go 3 months before we find a good candidate and then get them in.
We haven't even started
Yeah.
that process.
So it's not guaranteed that this would get spent anyways.
It's not guaranteed. It could take, I mean, our search for our clerk went through a couple of months the first time, and then we hired somebody, and then they resigned, and then we went a couple more months. Actually, we went almost a year before we found the illustrious Pam over there. So yeah, we're not guaranteed that you're gonna find somebody like that.
Yeah.
Peg.
What's that? Pam?
Well, it says peg.
You've been wearing the same helmet tonight.
That's funny.
How much of the fund balance can we use?
Well, you guys can use as much as you would like. We're gonna get into that later.
Well, I know, that. You just gotta put me on the hook there. Dangle me on front of me.
I mean. I believe that's in the, Peg, where did we put our little fund balance calculation?
It's usually in the beginning of the book. It's in the front.
Right after the welcome letter.
So we currently have. We are $1,179,455 over our 90-day maximum. Over our 60, we're $2,093,960.
What do we earn for interest on that? For a year?
On our bank,
Just
on our
before the general
4.6
fund.
right now. But they're anticipating that,
Yep.
which is why when we get the revenue.
Knew it was in the
why I
front somewhere.
lowered.
When it becomes to be operating in the 90-day.
Well, we have
That's what our thing says,
our policy.
60 to 90 days.
60 to
Over that
90.
was supposed to.
And we can get much more into this discussion when we get into our.
Yeah, we could go ahead.
Well, I guess, if you give them a number, I'd rather have you give them a lower number.
Well, I understand, but he can read it just as well as we can, I
Yep.
think.
Oh, I've already read it. You just wanted to hear it, didn't you? Yep.
You wanted to hear
Go
it.
ahead, Bob.
I like hearing about it too. Proud of that.
I think we need to give our town managers some discretionary authority here. Hire someone, train them in, but once you get to hire a person, how long does it take to hire the person? Whether that person will be qualified, it's clear we need someone else in that office along with the folks we have, if for no other reason than to cover. But looking to the future, to replace someone knows is needed. So I think she's made a reasonable case here, and I would move $307,360 for finance customer service.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Will this guarantee that you stay off the counter?
Not that bad.
Town manager doesn't need to be on the counter.
No,
Yeah,
it
more important things.
honestly.
Not saying they're not important, but you're saying other things.
No, honestly, quite
It's like a
honestly,
fire chief inside a house, burning a house.
quite
Doesn't need
honestly,
to-
quite honestly, it would. But part of my issue that I have is when I see the line, I can't handle the line. So like when there's people 6, 7 deep,
Mhm.
I feel the
Oh, yeah.
obligation to be out
If you
there.
have an extra person out there, you won't see it.
Well, I won't have that happen. And like I said, you know, we've had some pretty crazy things happen recently where it necessitated this, and it really brought back the whole issue, so.
Any more discussion? Yes, there was. Mike seconded it. Yes, there is. All those in favor? And one abstention.
Okay, for finance and customer service, we have, right page here. 307, 360. Yeah.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? I think it's good management to plan for the succession. Ready to vote? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
All right. All right. Bill, would you like to?
Yeah, that's where
Vacate the premises? We'll take a 5-minute break, I guess.
Okay.
All right, we're back in the session. All right, we'll go to the town clerk's department.
Yeah. So the town clerk's department budget is 100,530, and the increase is $7,879.
6,150 printing.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
no, sorry. Sorry, I'm looking.
printing,
Was you listening? Apparently.
Well,
Listens to all the-
printing and binding.
What's what many?
Some of that's all ballots, just so you are aware, for the town. And, the equipment maintenance went up quite a bit. And that includes another voting machine for the local warrant, and I'm going to explain. So all the changes that we may potentially make to the warrant will be up to 58 questions.
Yeah.
We're getting long. And one of the things that happens is like, so during a town warrant regular June meeting, we have a state that's probably maybe 1 page, and then we have the town warrant that's technically 4, maybe 5 this year, pages long. And the line backs up at the town warrant page, and then we have to bring out the old wooden box. So people feel a little uncomfortable about that wooden box. And there's a big line and people wait, so we wanted the second machine so that we could deal better with the line. And then we can also utilize it if in November, we could actually, because I'm sure it will be a huge turnout in November, because in case you weren't aware, we're having a presidential election. We could use one of our local machines as a state machine and process that quicker. So that way people aren't saying they're here forever. So we did,
3,100 for that increases.
yes,
Sure.
it's for the ballot. And the rest is benefits and wages.
Yeah.
Right. And just so you know, we had our representative from our the health insurance today in the office.
Out of that.
And as usual, every year, we model different things, and Peg did her due diligence and asked her to model a couple of different plans. and things
That's
like
worth
that.
a lot.
And she warned us that, I don't know if you're aware, but there are lots of changes coming down the pike from medical leave and requirements of health insurance and requirements of other programs, other types of benefit programs that are not health insurance, like short-term disability and dental and life. There's all these changes coming down, and that could affect the level of benefit that we have right now. So I think it is an important, we did this last year and we've done this in other times to review because we're in the least expensive plan. And we've saved money by adding a health reimbursement account, which I think I put that in the book a little bit, but the last couple of years, she's analyzed what we're paying in our HRA and our premiums versus moving into a plan that would be more expensive, but the coverage level would be. It's hard to explain that. So next year, the benefit plans themselves could change because they have to, and then that's gonna drive the cost up. She said it could be up to 10% more than what we're paying now. What we budgeted an 8% increase for our unknown 6 months because benefit plans run calendar year and we run fiscal. So we try to anticipate, there's been a 7% increase the last 3 years. But they're just, like I said, they're expecting it to be more, but yeah, she's going to look at our plan versus the other ones that are offered by the health trust to see if it makes sense to do what we're doing.
Right, so it's $100,000. $100,530. Would somebody like to make that motion? I'll move that. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Sorry.
Do it with yours.
Okay.
All those in favor? Okay,
Okay, we get 100,530 for the town clerk's budget. You have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. My question was on the benefits that might go up. Which line was that?
Health insurance.
1540. And does this 25,000?
That's what the town
Accommodate
pays
the-
for a family plan right now. Just the health insurance piece.
Okay, and you said that we might face a 6-month period of the new health insurance requirement.
That's already budgeted in there.
We already
It
budgeted
is.
that, yeah.
Okay,
January 25 is when a lot of the changes are happening. But our plan ends June 2025. So there's that 6-month period where I'm not gonna know what our health insurance costs are until mid-October for the next year.
right. So my question is, how is that reflected in?
We estimated 8%.
Okay, so that's within that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Personally, I think the investment in the ballot machine is a good one. For a lot of reasons.
But they get busier every year.
And it's a flashpoint situation, and any way to make it better is good. So ready to vote? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay, we'll move along. Municipal building.
So the municipal building, as you know, used to be a large cost center, and then the select board and budget committee asked that we break it out more into the departments. So that was the realignment that you're seeing in some areas. I think this is our 3rd year, could be wrong, doing this way. I will let you know that that did not change electricity because of the potential for when we purchased the solar farm at the transfer station. Again, that's not gonna be known until the well, technically it is known. But I did not adjust any of the electricity line items down, so that is a potential area we could potentially do. But I did not do that at the time that we were putting this together. But we have tried to realign sometimes, look at, you know, who's using the telephone the most, what departments. So there was some movement. I think there were some utilities in the fire department that went down because, you know, they're not using the internet and the telephone here as much as some of the others. We tried to base that on the number of computers that everybody uses. So that's why some of the numbers are going up and some are going down. The building maintenance did go up, and this line, was distributed among the departments, but this is new pest management, annual cleaning of the tiles and the rugs, and also a different way of doing, trash removal from the, town office. And, again, some of this was, we're at 20% of the building, cost, so it's just a little bit better based on the number of employees, I think, how we broke it down.
It's a new trash removal. You just go to the back door and fling it. Save-
Well,
save money.
The staff and EMS and police department. We now have a dumpster that we utilize, which is a little bit better than the former system that we were using.
And you recycle.
Yes, we do recycle. Our public works department makes sure we recycle. I will tell you, we recycle well because our deposits and returns are out in the EMS bag. And
That's all weird.
they take a lot of cardboard up. I know Will shows up and takes cardboard, and both chiefs are known to make cardboard rugs. We probably recycle here more than some people do at home.
I know the library is.
Oh, yeah. Burn barrel on that. You're on a roll tonight.
I'm funny tonight. Yeah.
Can we go back to the town manager's?
I get,
Question, John?
yeah, so, so the 992, 91, 99 increases in attributable to pest management. Cleaning the tiles of rugs and trash.
Yes, we,
You didn't do that
we
before?
we have not annually cleaned the tiles and the rugs, and, we have not had pest management in the past, but we had a pest issue this year, so we got onto a program. And it's not like a pest program that a cat could handle, but, not-
Is there a name involved?
But no, and honestly, for a couple of years there, we were not doing like, the actual shampooing of the rugs and the steam cleaning of the tiles and things like that, and we needed to get back into that.
Any other questions? Need a motion from the select board? Go ahead.
Yeah, I like the conservative. Because there are a lot of variances here. And I would move 33,435 for municipal.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, I should also point out that we did the heating oil at $4 per gallon, and hopefully it will be under that. Actually,
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Buildings committee.
Okay, we have $33,435 in presence here to approve or not. We have a motion. Ooh, getting in the first round. We have a second. Ben, thanks. Any discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
We haven't done emergency management. Did we?
No. Hey, did we do shellfish?
No, we did
not. Okay.
We did,
Page
EMS,
20.
fire and police, so
23. Shellfish management, for those of you who may not know, this is our shellfish. Essentially, it is our shellfish warden and the services that he provides to our clamming community. This is not supported by taxpayer dollars. This is 100% supported by commercial and some residential clamming licenses throughout our community. It's up 1,086 this year. Some of it is just redistribution for salaries, wages. And that individual is shared with the police department and the EMS department. So it's about a third of the time. And this is one of those unique positions that serves the town of Waldeboro well. Give you an example of this individual was working for the police department when we had an EMS call, took the hat off of a police officer, went as a medic, and does the same thing if the police need something while he's working as our shellfish warden, we can switch those hats for even with EMS, so. Again, the increase was 1,006. He can't register the car.
They have a lighting bridge. This is gonna divorce it and let you go and, John,
I moved $32,921 of selfish management.
is there a second? Second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
32,921 is the figure we have for shellfish management. We have motion.
Second that.
Okay, any discussion? Just gonna clam up and vote.
Good one.
I was just sticking my neck out. All right, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4,
Might need votes
5,
in here.
6, 7, 9, 9, 0.
In the truck if you need them.
Well, I don't need them. It's everyone else.
Page 25 is animal control. This remained the same,
That's correct.
and that's contractual with ACO for Lincoln County and the Lincoln County Animal Shelter.
Other than that, I'm over 18,000. I'll second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
18,000 for animal control. Do we have a motion? Thank you, John. Do you have a second? Ever faithful Scott. All right, any discussion? Are the numbers of animals roaming and causing problems different anymore?
Increased quite a bit, I believe.
Yeah,
Go to the scanner.
On my road, it's the same dog, like 4 times.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna get into the Fox, but yes.
Oh, yeah.
okay. What did the fox say? All right. Any more sensible discussion?
Not to call it back.
All those in favor? 9.
This is actually for our emergency management coordinator, and this is all salary and wage, and that number is for this year, the $253 increase, $7,014.
What is he doing for you?
So I will tell you something that, our emergency management coordinator is, the one who does all of our FEMA requests and gets
$500,000. We were tallying it up over the period of his work. We're anticipating FEMA reimbursement. And we went and looked back in time. It was $500,000 that we brought in.
That's what he's done. for-
That's what he's done for FEMA reimbursement and grant and all kinds of stuff. For his tenure.
Oh, yeah.
That's a small commission.
A small commission, and he's very detailed and very good at it.
Well, say you go for it.
Oh, yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
All right, would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion for $7,014.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any more discussion? Seeing them, all those in favor? John, you abstain.
No, no.
Okay. 5, you're on.
Okay, $7,014 for emergency management. Thank you. All right, what a surprise. Any discussion? All those in favor? 9-0.
All right, we'll move on to fire.
This year, it's, well, as it was last year, 88,320. This is fire hydrant rental, which is a public utilities committee formula. Even though we own the water utility, we still must pay the fee, even though essentially it is us paying ourselves.
Now, you only used 50,000 of it in 23 and you only used 36 so far this year.
It's 12 months at 7,300 and $60. They sent us a bill. We
Okay.
pay it every
Oh, the
month.
water
So
company
it's
sent you a
the-
bill?
What's that?
The water company sent you a
Yes.
bill? Okay.
Yeah. One of the bills you guys see in your warrant. So this was a good halfway point when the report was run.
Somebody like to make a motion on that?
Well, yeah, I have a question. I'm looking at the summary sheet on revenue, and is there a line item for this there?
No, because that goes into the water utility. Separate
Goes to
from,
main water,
goes, no, it goes to the utility.
not part of our operation.
It's not part of our operating budget. It's they're their own utility. So it goes into them as a revenue. It's our expense and their revenue.
Who winds up spending it? Is it main water or is it?
It's, well, us, Maine Water just handles that function for us, but that's what makes up some of those user fees. Otherwise, our
Okay,
user. fee-
who gets the money eventually? Where does that 88,000 go?
It goes to the Waldeboro Water Department.
Okay,
That
Takes
is,
care of the pumps up there.
I-
that is administered by Maine Water. It doesn't go to Maine Water. It goes to the Waldeboro Utility Department.
So everyone
It's
who's
just-
on the water
it's a
system.
Going from our operating fund into the
into
water
the water system,
utility. Yeah.
which is a,
Like water-
it's a subset of the town's customers.
We don't get it.
Yeah, you live up.
We get a host.
They looked up.
Okay, I'll make a motion to award $88,320 line item 400 fire hydrants.
Is there a second? Second. Any more discussion? Seeing that, all those in favor?
Okay, we get $88,320. We have a motion.
There you go. Second.
Okay, any discussion? There's lots of jokes here, but I'm gonna resist. All those in favor? 9-0.
Go on to streetlights.
Always a fun time is the streetlights. I just wanna, we converted our streetlights back in 2020. We are still saving money as the cost back then would have been 17,000 as it was in 2017. And although, we're asking for $700 more, that's just to keep up on the maintenance of the streetlights. The total budget requested is only 6,000, so it was a good cost saving measure.
Yeah. Bob and I worked on it a couple of years. We did. Yep. We finally got it. Spent 51,000 to save $17,000 a year. So. All right. Somebody would like to make a motion on that? All those in favor?
Okay, 6,000 for streetlights. What do we think? Motions?
I like seeing nice.
Okay,
Second that.
thank you. Any more bright ideas or should we vote? All those in favor? 9-0.
Go on the parks and cemetery, page 32.
Parks and Cemetery, it stayed the same as last year, 11,750. I know that, part of that is for the mowing of veterans' graves that we are required to provide for. And I know that, part of that 4,000 this year is going towards, what we're utilizing to set up the pad for the new playgrounds.
Somebody like to make a motion? I'll move 11,750. Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Okay, 11,750 for parks and cemeteries. Motion? Thank you. Do we have a second? How about from this side of the room? Thank you, Jeff.
I'm here for you.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor? 2, 3. 9-0.
All right, next up is general assistance. See an increase of
$17 on.
We worked on that a little bit.
So I will explain to you, the general assistance, anything that we put out is reimbursed from the state at 70%. If you look at page 34, you will see that our expenses actually have gone down about half. But if you were to look back into 2017, 2018, we were probably using most of that $18,000 that we typically have budgeted. This is a direct result of the community navigation program,
And that's,
and it's something that really shows how far we've come. That making sure that those resources get to people who typically, GA is hard to qualify for, but again, having community navigation give out resources and not just throwing, I need a night here at a hotel because I'm going to be homeless, but helping people potentially find living space. Or, we need this service. So it has actually cut down on what we spend on GA.
I was thinking about possibly dropping it down to 10,000.
So
Do it.
my only
Yes,
concern that I have about that is that there are new general assistant programs. There's been a change coming up that the legislature approved. So I don't know how that is going to affect, and that is money that's earmarked to deal with specifically with homelessness. So I don't know what those new parameters will look like. So I'd like to just leave it as it is, or if you want to take it down just a few thousand, because I honestly don't know what that new programming is going to look like.
Taking it down to 15,000 be acceptable.
I think it would.
I have a question. So, now who administrates this? The community navigator?
So no, the community navigator does not. We have a separate individual who administers it. So, but what happens is if somebody comes in need, they go through community navigation first, because general assistance, you have to exhaust all your local resources before you can apply for general assistance. And there's a lot of state rules and regulations that go along with that. What we're finding with community navigation is when people come in, they sit down, they typically go through, they fill out a form, a release, they can sit down initially and go through a counseling, essentially talking about like, what are the issues? Because if you really look at it, if somebody comes in and says, I need food or I need heating assistance, there's generally some other need they have. So we've been able to take where you might have been paying for medical bills or rental assistance or fuel, that is funneled down to all these resources that our community navigator has at their disposal to make sure that people are getting the help quickly.
Nice.
So once those local resources meet the need, sometimes the need no longer exists.
So who is administrating?
So currently it would fall under our chief of EMS at the moment. It was prior under community navigation. But since things have changed in community navigation, it is now basically we're sharing all the responsibilities.
So you'd be okay to go drop in 15.
Under, yes, but we have to take
sorry.
those out.
Oh, sorry, yeah, we're gonna take it.
I can take it out of,
How about rentals? That would be 5,000.
well, I'm not sure that's the right one to take it out of. I would take it out of mortgages.
80-7. Okay.
That's 1,000.
Well, I can take it out of, I think the easiest way to do this would be to take it out of the services, GA services line item. Well, it comes out in the bottom where it says GA services 13,450. It would be the 80s.
Okay.
I think that 8,000.
That's a subtotal of the approved, all the utilities and mortgage and all. It includes all of the types of GA services we might pay for, like fuel and food and mortgages, rental.
Yeah, I'd have to take it here.
Well, I was just thinking about going down to 15,000, which is
32,
66.
And I'll
Take that
spread-
out of rental. Can we take that out of rental?
You can take that, well, but that's the one that they might be actually, I don't know what that's gonna look like. So if you guys, well, what I'm saying is, if you look on page 34, GA services is a 13,450, which I believe is what
That's the total.
total of the 80 series. Let me figure out what, you don't have to vote on that, you're voting on a total line, you know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Let me figure out where I can break that down.
So, all right, so I guess take 3450 out of that, to make that even.
Why don't you just take
32.
3266?
Out of that, okay,
Yes.
right. That new number would be,
15,266.
15,000 straight,
15,000 straight.
15,000 straight up, right, yeah, that's correct. Is that? Okay, with everybody?
I move to make the Department 600 General Assistance Program $15,000.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Okay, we have figure of 15,000 for general assistance. We have a motion. John? Second. Okay, Brendan. Thank you. Get a participation medal.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, any discussion?
I have one comment.
Yep.
So this is something someone could use as an absolute last resort, right?
It is something that somebody is using for an absolute last resort, however. Because of the system that we've set up, it's just not being utilized to its fullest because all other resources are being expended.
Okay.
And even if we were to have a need, we also have the offset to this GA is the Philbrook Fund, which is a trust fund set up for help for those in need in Walden.
What is the long-term outlook for the Philbrook Fund?
The Philbrook Fund is very helpful.
Don't expect it.
Great.
Tenth of what we're.
So that's the other portion of this is what the community navigation has done is that it has, we have this fund, this is it's a perpetual fund. And that has seen less use because of the fact that these resources are being utilized better by our community navigation program. So needs are being met that have not in the past been met before. And we've made significant changes too on, so now if somebody needs assistance with a repair of the house or something like that, that goes through CHIP, and then we would typically reimburse CHIP. We now have our code enforcement officer going out and also looking at the home And their, Mark's, our code enforcement officer works closely with, Chip to make sure that the repairs are being done and what's needed is being done. So they might say, well, we need a set of steps, but he could go out and do an inspection and there might be more that's needed. There's resources, and I say this all the time, if people come to the town and go through the community navigation, we have the resources to help people. It's just not the way that it used to be. Because sometimes the resources that are needed, it's not about handing out money and then just saying, okay, we're done, here's your $120, go away. Now it's, let's actually try to address the problem and the root causes, and it's one of the most powerful things we've done, and if somebody wants to ever have a conversation with me about how do you actually fight poverty in Waldeboro, come see me and we'll sit down and we'll talk about the community navigation program, because this is the first meaningful program that I believe has been established that genuinely does fight poverty. And I take it, I mean, this was something we worked really hard. Jan was on the select board, and then Bob, Abden, Will, really worked hard to get this program going in Waldeboro. And because of its great success in Waldeboro, because, you know, we have numbers that back up the success, this now went countywide. And every town now in Lincoln County has access to a community navigator.
That position's actually helped a couple people keep their houses.
Yes. So like, that's part of the thing is people might think, well, it's only the town, or I didn't qualify for GA, or, you know, I don't want to share that information. But if you come in and fill out the form, and you don't even have to come here. If you don't feel comfortable coming here, you can go to the YMCA in Damariscotta. The form's available online. There are resources that we have to help people like that. And the goal should be keeping people in the homes they're already in, and just trying to help people in the best way we can.
So the community navigator's office is in the YMCA in Damariscotta.
So, no, we have a community navigation office here. If you don't feel
Okay.
comfortable coming here, because some people might be embarrassed to come and ask for help. They can go to the community navigation office. There's also one at the Y in Damariscotta.
Thank you.
She has an assistant.
She has another navigator. They work as a team.
It was just her.
Yes, it was just, we had one, it was, and now there are two community navigators.
Still on you, Val.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out where we were. I got lost.
15,000.
15,000. Yeah.
For
Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor? 9-0.
Okay, we'll move on to page 38, which is the Sylvania property.
This is a new line item. However, the property and casualty risk is not new insurance, but the land maintenance, we put $2,500 in there. That was at the request of John Daigle, because that is property that we have to, you know, since it is ours. And the Sylvania committee is working on a plan for that property, and hopefully you'll be hearing about that soon.
You get a concept of that now.
It is, they gave the concept draft of what to do with the site to the engineer.
They get a grant for the engineer, correct?
Yes, we had grant funding for the engineer. It's Max, our town planner, has worked very hard to make sure that any work we're doing there has been covered by grant work, or by grant.
Third questions?
Yeah, I have a question about pollution and liability insurance. I thought Leadvance was on the hook.
So this is for the stuff they're not on the hook for. So say that we do something on the property that causes, say we do something and put in an oil tank and that leaks, that would be on us. not.
Do we
on
have-
them.
Pollution liability insurance for this building?
No, we do not, but it's because of the pre-existing conditions there.
Hmm.
It was when we accepted responsibility and the donation of the property, it was a recommendation of our attorney and our insurance company when we asked that we carry this extra coverage. We know it's there and we know what they're responsible for. It's what we add to it.
We paid for this last year, but it was before we had the Sylvania department. So it came out of the regular
Road
insurance last
line.
year. The same amount.
It was short last year, it just wasn't on this.
It's been insured since we owned it.
Since we acquired it.
Since we acquired
Just been broken down.
it. Correct. It's in its own line on amount. That way everybody's understanding what that cost center is.
So what could be our creation of risk on the property?
Or if someone gets hurt on the property, is that the same thing?
No.
No, this is
totally
pollution
different.
liability
This is a
insurance.
pollution liability. So say we are doing something there.
A fuel oil spill. from a
Well,
truck or
oil
something?
spill or hydraulic fuel or hydraulic oil, I mean,
But
you know-
isn't that covered under the regular town operations?
so because of the site and it being specific to already being a RECRA site, it was suggested that we get this additional layer in case something were to happen that, again, we put in, say, we put in a fuel oil tank for some building at some point and that leaks, we have that coverage.
Wouldn't
if
it
we're
make sense
doing
to
work-
wait until we do something
Well,
to
but
get the
if-
insurance?
So even if we're doing work, like I just brought up the hydraulic oil leak, say we have an excavator up there. Or a lawnmower, excavator is probably a bad example. Or something happens, say when we were having the 250th parade, a fuel oil truck was in the parade and it leaked. That would have covered us for that pollution.
How is that covered on any other piece of property?
So it's very
in town?
different, okay, so that's normally covered under our normal insurance. Because this is a RECRA site, the Sylvania site, it had to have the pollution control coverage rider.
I don't get it, but
So
I'll accept it.
because currently that site has the. Oh, boy. Tetra,
What are you asking about?
the chemical,
No,
tetrachloroethylene.
Well, tetrachloroethylene is one of them.
Is
The
one of the major
chlorinated
ones.
solvents, general category is chlorinated
Is
solvent.
there in the soil already, and we know what is there already. We are not
You don't wanna
supposed
get
to
it
add to it. So if we, for some unknown reason, added to the problem of introducing something different and doing something, this protects us. It gives us some coverage in insurance.
You guys went in there and dug in the wrong place.
Well, true, we went in
You
there,
went Bananas and just
right,
Disturb the soil or something.
Ledbetter doesn't want to be held responsible
Correct.
for that.
You probably need that assurance from the lawyers when they said, no, they did it. You say, no, we did it.
Well, then we're covered.
we're covered.
What's the dollar amount of the coverage?
I would have to look,
$6,250.
well, that's
No,
the
no,
cost.
the-
I would have to look that up. I don't,
Policy.
The
I do
policy
not
value.
remember what the binder coverage is.
Could have bought that.
I think
Because
it's-
I mean, environmental insurance awards can be pretty big.
It's a chunk policy.
It's Chuck Collins. We have to renew it this year. It was good for
4 years.
4 years.
I have it up, but it's so tiny. I'm having a really hard time reading it.
Fine.
All right. Yep.
I'll move. $2,750 for Sylvania.
Is there a second? I'll second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Okay, we have $8,750 for Sylvania Property Office House. House. We have a motion. Thank you, Ben. Second, John. Any discussion? All those in favor? 9-0.
We'll move on to page 40.
This is planning and development. This budget actually went down $15,580. This comprises our full-time code enforcement officer at 36 hours. And it also covers our planner that we get through Mid-Coast Council of Governments.
Is this part of?
And that's the person better known as Max. That's part of other professional services.
Is that 15,580 part of standard hiring?
That is part of having the person who was assisting him.
Yeah, okay, that's what we was paying the part-time officer.
Correct.
Okay.
That's that overlap
Yeah.
training.
Yeah, because he didn't do 32 hours a week.
Correct.
He's known as Yoda now.
Yeah. Are you
So this is an example of
Cross
training.
cross
and-
training
Cross
and
training.
bringing him in? Yes. So we did have to raise the training and education expenses because a lot of those expenses in the past were shared between all the different towns that Stan served. So that did come up. And there was a reduction in the MCED fee.
And an increase in, now, like I've been working with the code officer to make sure that the we have a web-based program now that handles all of the code planning. It's pretty intricate. It took a lot to build, so that's part of what the equipment maintenance line is.
So prior to that, we used something that was created by a prior employee in like 2009. For all the permitting. So now it's all done through a new software system.
Which we will be linking to the town website for anyone to access.
This goes to 62, the revenue side of the planning and code enforcement. 2024 shows a significant negative amount. Can you speak to that?
You're on which side of it?
Page 62.
That's money that we got in that was not budgeted for, certain times, certain things come in, if they have a solar sign, that also goes into the.
Yeah, so that's almost like a positive. That's a
Yeah.
positive.
Okay.
It's something
negative
that's
is
not
positive.
consistent enough
Right.
to budget for.
I get it. I see
So
what
that-
you're saying.
Yeah, that's a good thing, right?
That's a good thing, yeah.
Yeah, we get $12,775.75 in income.
Found money.
Correct.
Right.
Why is that negative and the plumbing fees is positive?
Because
It was positive money.
But they're both in revenue here.
Well, yeah, it's projected over,
Yeah, we projected not. 12,000.
Was that because of the solar fields? The big solar fields we
I
had?
believe it is, but I'm gonna try and dig in just to verify. Bear with me.
it could be marijuana licensing.
so
too.
for instance, plumbing fees, they budgeted 10.5, they've only gotten 81.46, okay? If they had gotten 11.5, that year to date would be minus $1,000.
Right.
Correct.
Oh, okay, I guess.
Anyway, I didn't mean to jump ahead, I just
Yep.
wanted to see if that, any correlation there.
So when we get why
Why don't I check that for what we do the revenue?
Yeah. Good. Any other questions?
I just want to point out that Max, our amazing town planner, writes a lot of grants for the town of Waldeboro, and he's very successful.
How much does he up to now?
He's, I'm gonna say he's probably at 1.5 million now. In 7 years. Probably more than that. We'll have to, I'll get a copy. We'll get a total of that for you. For the next meeting, total of Max.
I'm sorry, one more question. When did the new code enforcement, when did Stan leave and the new code enforcement guy take up?
August of 2023.
So 1 month.
I do not know how many. He goes from Belfast to,
He said Appleton.
yeah, he's all over.
I know he's at Bremen.
But we get not just Max, we get the whole team that goes with it, but Max is specifically assigned to Waldeboro. We got in on the ground floor of that.
Nice.
That was one of my first things I did when I got here. I think it was August of 2017, he started.
Just surprised that.
Yeah, I think it is probably, I mean, he got $1 million in just one grant, so you know, he's pretty amazing. We'll have to do a max total. Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, health insurance for one employee is $26,000
For now.
per family.
But that's.
Holy macaroni.
No, there's only one person.
That's a one person nowadays.
Or a third of your salary. Yep. That's it. Very. Yeah, that's not for Max though, is it?
It's
No, just one.
one employee.
Right, that's for our
Doesn't-
code enforcement.
Right, we don't have any employee costs related to Max.
Right.
His
He's on-
costs are under 4090.
Not sure I can ask the question. But when is he, if you're both Medicare?
Well, that's just because somebody goes on Medicare doesn't mean they have to give up their health insurance.
What happened to the main PERS figure this year? It's-
Employees can opt in or they can not opt into main PERS.
So does he get social security instead or?
I don't feel real comfortable about discussing what
Okay.
employees
Okay,
take or get that way, but
that's not required this year. The main PERS.
when
is
you
not.
are hired by the town of Waldeboro or any pension eligible position, you can make a decision whether you take pension or not.
Okay.
Sorry, 162, 867 for planning and development. Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Okay, we get 162, 867 for planning and development. Do we have a motion? Thank you, John.
Second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? 9-0.
On to page 42, property and liability insurance. $1,400.
Yes. This is through Maine Municipal Association, and 10% of the bill is allocated to the transfer station, and this is where the pollution liability binder was moved from.
So it's actually, we're covered for 4 years with that other.
That other, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's. That probably should have been said that. Because we was
He
covered,
said that.
so the 6250 is for 4 years, not for one.
No, it's 6250 a year, correct, Peg?
For the liability. For the
For the pollution.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, so I guess,
but we got the 4 years ago is when we got the. Maybe I wasn't clear on it.
So our net increase in insurance this year is $7,600, not $1,400.
So the numbers
Including
here
the
are. This reflects the proper number.
6250 was removed from last year to this year.
So yes, you could look at it like the insurance is increasing. But that number is what the
Yeah.
number that is
Yeah.
over the number last year.
So the 2023 actual did include the 6,200 for the Sylvania property.
2023,
The
let's,
2023 actual,
I just wanted to verify that for you.
we're just trying to gauge the true delta here.
Yep, it did.
Yeah, so this, Val, to your point, the 2023 did include the Sylvania property insurance.
rules as well,
And, yep, and 24 as well.
24 as well.
It's in the 24 year to date or the budget? It's in the budget.
It's in the budget.
Okay.
It said right there, move pollution liability binder to.
Go ahead, Bob.
This risk pool that we're with, the MMA. They have done an amazing job keeping their costs in line. Because they negotiate as a group with the reinsurance companies. And they have a lot of leverage. Insurance rates for property have gone nuts. You can well imagine why. We're getting a hell of a deal here. This is a really good deal. I just want to point that out.
That being said, Bob.
Yes, I'll move.
Only be on something a soapbox.
For property liability insurance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Yeah, we have $65,036 for liability property insurance. Thank you, Billy. Scott, I got it.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, thanks. Any discussion? All those in favor? 9-0.
To page 46.
Debt
Debt
service.
service.
So this is a reduction by $73,405, and this is because we have retired the debt for the Public Works Garage, the final payment, which was 11 in November of 2023. And the principal that you see reflected and notes that is currently here in 2021, the town refinanced equipment loans at a lower rate, combined the streetlight LED conversion loan, ladder truck, excavator, all refinanced to a 2.57 interest over 13 years.
Such a good move.
They're talking going back down to 3.5 to.
Yeah.
3%
It was a,
on bonds.
well, it was a great,
Right. I mean, this might be another year or so, but we'll be able to
well,
get back into that.
when we get into the capital discussion, Peg did some initial research about this.
Which is good, because we're all money right now. All right, so it's 338, 193.
138.
138, sorry, 130.
138, 193, I'd make that motion for debt service.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
138, 493 seems to be the number. We have a motion.
So move.
Second.
Thank you, Jay.
Wow.
Woo-hoo. Any discussion? Favor? Unanimous, 9-0.
Like to go there.
So I know it's late, but we have had the chief and members of the fire department sitting here because we were going to have a capital discussion. What I'd like to at least do, and I asked the chief here tonight because I thought we would be discussing this. And since he sat here this whole time, I thought we could at least discuss his portion of the capital.
Let's do it. I was hoping you'd.
If
say
he's
that.
still awake.
Have to leave, have to come back.
I didn't want him to have to leave and come back.
No, let's get it done.
Happy to.
Yep.
Not just that.
Yeah. Well, I was, Paul, I was gonna ask Paul,
Presentation.
a small one, but I also wanted him not only just to talk about what his request is in 2025, but also get into the potential truck conversation.
Yeah, last year I prepared, the capital plan that I handed out to all of you folks last year, and I got copies to the new members, to put there, to put it out. The one biggest concern that we have is the rapidly increasing costs of these apparatus and the wait times for their build. This truck, since I prepared this report and gave it to you last year, the truck that the truck committee put together, if I could just quickly introduce Dale Smith, our deputy chief, for those of you who don't know. Derek Reed, he was the chairman of the truck committee, one of our lieutenants. Daniel Jones, firefighter on the truck committee, and Amelia Bragg was on the truck committee. Kendall Whitehill's not here tonight. He was our fourth member of that committee. Since we presented this plan to you last year, the truck that we requested last year is now gone up $247,000 in 12 months. It is 3-year wait period for build time. So if we ordered that truck this year, it'd be 3 years before we would receive it to come in. I have no crystal ball. I can't stand here and tell you how much trucks are going to continue to go up in the future. I don't know how much they are. The truck that we're requesting, that we would like to get, basically from the firefighters' perspective, they would like it to be as similar and as close to our ladder truck as we could get for a simple operation, meaning that the cab, all the switches, controls in the cab and on the pump panel would basically be as close as we could get. We tried to do that in the past, but technology kept changing, so they are quite different. one benefit that we have currently when we got our ladder truck. Our current ladder truck came with a pump and a tank, which none of our previous ladder trucks had that operated. So we have 500 gallons of water on our ladder truck that we never had before. So what we're looking for in this new truck would be to increase our tank size. Most of our pumpers, all of our pumpers have 1,000 gallons, and we'd look to go to 15 or 1,600 gallons, which therefore would give us 2 trucks with 2,000 gallons of water on it. In the past, it would take us 3 trucks, 2 pumpers and a ladder to do that. We'd be able to do that with 2. With staffing sizes, or staffing issues that everyone's having, being able to do more with 2 trucks is going to be beneficial for us in the future, I feel, going forward. Again, just like all of our other trucks out there, there are, I want to say there's no bells and whistles, but they got lots of lights and sirens, so they do have whistles. But there's nothing extraordinary on these trucks. There's nothing elaborate or fancy that's on them. They are basic trucks. One thing that I would encourage you to consider, or the select board at the time when we do this. We've had tremendous success with the manufacturer that we've used. All of our trucks out in our station are manufactured by Pierce. That was a decision that was made by Lee Smith and Bob Maxey and Dick Glidden many years ago, to go with them. I think it was a good one. I trust them. I respect them. All our trucks, I think, are in incredible condition and that they have lasted extremely well. We're getting about 35 years out of our trucks. The one we're looking to replace is 35 years old. And I shared with you when I did my operating budget, the engine, the motor portion of it is not the issue. That motor, I'm sure Johnny Daigle would like to take it out and put it in some of his trucks. Because there's nothing wrong with the motor. It's the rest of the truck around it. We're having difficulty getting parts now. If we need a part, they're having to manufacture the part. Somebody's gonna have to fabricate it for us. The parts from 35 years ago just aren't readily available for it. So that's the direction that we're headed. Again, my concern is about the increasing of the cost and the wait time for the build. We have very little money in the capital. If you read my report, you know that it was always my preference to put money in annually to help offset these costs. Fire trucks aren't cheap. And that would have been my preference. However, several years ago, when we bought some of the trucks, money was cheap. And so the decision was made at that time not to put money aside and to borrow the money. Now money's not cheap, and here we are. What we've been doing is we've been doing lease purchase agreements. We've been doing it through Pierce. And what couple things that's allowed us to do. Number one, they consider that as a prepayment. So we get a discount on the overall price of the truck by financing it through them. It also allows us where we don't have to start paying for it until it arrives. It locks in the price so that we don't have to worry about cost increases between now and the time it arrives. That's one benefit. And then we'd start paying for it when it comes. Did the same thing with the ladder truck. Again, we had an opportunity for a bond. We combined it with the excavator and some of the other equipment in town. We refinanced it and we're able to get out of our lease agreement. That's part of the understandings of doing it that way. And that worked out well for us. So that's basically it in a nutshell.
So Paul, this is engine 3,
Engine 3, yes.
need to replace right away. And what you get proposed here is 50,000 this year and 25 next.
No, you're,
How does that,
there's a balance for engine 3 of 50.
oh, it's a balance, okay, so
Then in
25.
25,000 in there, but that 2026 number based on Paul's new information, we would have to update that.
Right. And
So what's your total number?
I'm not gonna go over 1 million, but we're gonna be pretty close. It was 823,000, I think, last year, and it's gone up to 147,000.
Engine 3, you have 853
Mhm.
thousand plus 247.
Well, didn't somebody say, I just heard some conversation, I think with you and some of the other chiefs that maybe they weren't even quoting prices beyond every 3 or 4 months and then they have to requote?
Yeah, yeah. Like if we entered into an agreement with them, if we signed a purchase sale agreement or a lease agreement, that would lock in the price. Otherwise, they're not giving you a guarantee into the future.
But they are changing like every 3 or 4 months. 90-day guarantee of price or something probably.
Roughly, I mean, I don't expect you to know this off the top of your head, but the maintenance cost on pump number 3 annually now is roughly,
I don't know what the actual things, and engine 3 is pretty much moved to the reserve.
Yeah.
Section that's in the back, we don't take it out a lot, so the use isn't.
the only reason I asked that is so you've got this, we're in an environment where we had, because of COVID, supply shortages, severe ramp up of costs and so forth, and, what's our timeline here? Do we have a little wiggle room? Out of doing that?
I just wonder if we ordered it now and pre-ordered it, we could still set money aside. You said you're probably not gonna get it for 3 years regardless.
Correct.
So we can still set money and work towards that. And whatever we had reserved, we could take in, by then, hopefully the bonds will be down, we could actually bond it.
But then you've
Exactly
got,
what I'm hoping.
but you've got another
But
2020.
we're committing on a price, which,
But the other kicker in this that we need to have a conversation about is that in 2028, there's another $375,000 truck.
but that probably will be for another 2031, if we're lucky.
But,
Yeah.
But I
If
think
we're
if you're-
lucky.
if
But
you're-
one of the things is like we had conversations, about going to commercial chassis trucks. Again, you're not gonna get 35 years out of them.
But a third of the price,
Yeah.
quarter of the price.
Well, no, they're getting up there too. Definitely less than, the 6-man cabs that we run. All right, you could only have 2 firefighters in it as opposed to the 6-man crews. So they are definitely less money. But they're going up as well.
This demand, because nobody can afford $1 million.
Mhm.
Right.
This new first truck, would it move up into first due?
In first due, in tandem with the ladder.
Rotate one in the back.
Yeah, and when we bought engine 4, which is our one commercial chassis truck, we used it as wildland and for extrication for rescue equipment on it. That truck doesn't stop. It's going all the time. And because it's commercial chassis, I'm concerned about its service life. I want to extend it as long as I can. So once this truck would come into service, we probably would move the extrication equipment over to engine 2. Because the compartments are configured as such that they would accommodate a lot of that equipment. So engine 2 would remain a pumper, but it would also service as the rescue, which would then extend the life of engine 4 as well.
Is it safe to say these never get cheaper, the constant increase? We're talking about the right tool versus, we talk about commercial chassis, that might be cheaper, but it's there's still some delayed cost there, so it's a right. Situation. When you get the new truck, is there anything you can do with the old one in terms of using it for trading? Or like, I don't know, something for kids to crawl over to get interest.
We do that now with, with our current trucks. Fortunately, that truck's not.
I mean, 35 years is a long time.
Mhm.
That would not being able to do it would make me say no.
You know, we have tried, every truck that we've replaced, we've tried selling the old ones, and we get minimal dollars for them.
And I believe you had talked about federal guidelines coming down, that we're talking potentially with 15 years.
Yeah, what I shared with you, again, that's a proposed thing. That isn't happened, that's not for sure. I'm pretty much, Julie and I talked about it today. It's a 650-page document. Some part of that's gonna come true. I don't know which part of it. I don't think all of it's gonna pass, but something's gonna be there. And they are calling for a 15-year age limit on apparatus in that document.
Is that a publicly available document?
Yes, it is. You can go right on OSHA, and it's under fire brigades. Is what it is. They're changing the fire brigade law.
It's good destroy.
Across the country, across the country. And again, like I shared with you, I'm not gonna get wound up about it until it's done. And once it's done, then we'll all be here together figuring it out.
So if, assuming we need this truck, we're gonna go ahead, get 50 in the account now, 25 if we allocate that for this year, and then 900,000, or is that a different number for next year? Whatever that makes up the total for that, how is that proposed to be bonded, or?
My-
How,
My recommendation would be, but this is completely up to Julie and Peg, is that we would do something similar that we did with the ladder truck, that we would enter into whatever agreement that has an out so that we can lock in the price. That's my largest concern, is to lock in the price, be able to get whatever discounts we can, considering it to be prepaid. And then hopefully we can bond it either before it comes or after.
Do we, so, what percent, the 50 is enough to bind it? Or do you know,
No, what we had to sign the lease.
so what percentage, and do you know the cost of money on the lease at this point?
I wouldn't know the
We
cost
don't
of the money at this point. I can tell you what the cost if we were to go to a bank and get it is, because we researched that, but I can't tell you. So,
What's that?
so if you're looking at $1 million, you're at 5.39 for 3 years, 5.29 for 5 years, and 5.43 for 7 years. But I think we have to look at this a little differently, because you're looking at $1 million in 2026 potentially, and then $1 million in 2028. You're gonna spend $2 million over the next 2 years for 2 fire trucks. So I think that we have to think about that. So you're gonna, whether we get them, there's still 2 years between whenever we get them. Does everybody understand that? Doesn't matter if we wait 4 years, you're going to be committing to potentially buying 2 in 2 years. That's a $4 million pill. So I just want everybody to be aware of that, whether we order this one today. Even if we ordered it today and it doesn't come for 4 years, we've committed that money, or we do that next year. 2 years, and then a year later, we're going to then be doing the same thing again, because you've got to replace, at least if we're looking at the schedule on the capital, you got it in one. Right?
Yeah, 2028 was my recommendation. I'm being very honest with, that- it's not my intention to turn around and come right back here. Yes, that's the recommendation. I wish we had kept up with them as we were going along, as they were scheduled to go.
That would definitely something 29.
Yeah,
But I think we have to have the conversation.
Yeah.
That's going to determine how how we fund it. So I just think we have to be aware of that. I think this is a discussion that's gonna be much longer than tonight, but I think that we have to have this in the forefront of our mind because
it's certainly not my intention to come back here in 2 years and say we need another truck. I mean, every one of us sitting here that's in this department, we're taxpayers do. And we're not gonna, I mean, we're gonna do what we can do. We're gonna continue to work. We'll continue driving engine 3. If we need to drive engine 3, we'll do what we need to do. I just feel that things aren't gonna get any cheaper. We know that it has to happen. It's not my intent to come back in very few years and do that,
so I
but
think
I
we need
see.
to update that so that we know what so I can forecast it out. We just need to be realistic.
I agree.
I look at it differently. I don't view it as $2 million. I view it as a cash flow. Because that's really what it is. And I think what we did on the ladder truck was the right thing to do. We locked in at a price, and I think if we could lock in 2 trucks at a price today, we should do that.
I'm not asking.
I know you're not,
So
but you know what's gonna happen in 2028 or 2029. You know what's gonna happen. You're gonna go up another $250,000. And $1 today is worth a lot more than
we're
$1
gonna get pushed
4
back,
years from now.
but you're gonna get pushed back.
Yeah.
You're gonna get pushed back and so,
I appreciate what you're saying and I understand what you're saying.
but you've gotta also realize that there are residents out there that are gonna be hit this year with the realization that we have dwindling volunteers. And then you're gonna go buy 2 trucks. And you might not be able to staff those 2 trucks.
I don't.
I'm just saying that's, our fire department is going out this year to explain our volunteer problem.
We have a volunteer problem, then we should be buying any trucks. Because we're not gonna have enough people to buy the ladder, to drive the ladder. I mean, if that's.
But I'm just saying,
What are we doing?
we've got to be careful about, we need to give the fire department time to initiate their PR campaign about volunteering and being honest about what the service is that they can provide. So I just want to be careful about saying, well, I see economy and all of that.
Financial argument.
It's a financial argument, but we gotta just, because when you say stuff like that, people get out there, they're lying to fire.
Yeah, and the other thing that I'm concerned about, and the reason I want to wait and I don't want to come back in 2 years is that I don't want my successor to then 30 years from now be faced with having 2 trucks at the same time that our grandchildren are gonna have to figure out how they're gonna do it too. We gotta somehow get the space back in here. We need to get back on a plan, which is what I tried to do by creating this document last year, was to try to get us back on a plan. And I totally agree with Julie. We got to have that conversation of where to go. I think it's right to lock us in, get a price. I think that's right. I don't think it's realistic to come back in 2 years to do this again. I don't think none of us are asking for that. I don't think it's realistic. But we've got to come up with that plan so that they're spaced out so that we don't run into this for generations. But I respect what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
Just wondering how far out they look to go until allow. Is it a 2-year
I-
horizon or?
Lock in for 40 years. Wait,
I think if you, I think you'd have to sign an agreement to buy it.
You have to.
Like, we would have
you
to
sign
take-
that agreement, you are signing that you're buying.
And you're sending them money. That's what we did. We signed the lease purchase agreement for the ladder truck and sent them first payment according to their terms, and it was 4.57. It's about 100, I probably pulled up, it's like 100 and something thousand a year. But that's what I was gonna say, we thought about that. We are sort of saving, at least for the first or second payment. We
Mhm.
wanted it all to go to that.
But I think if we're talking about a truck, we also have to have a meeting devoted strictly to trucks.
Well, I understand that this is one part of a large
I'm
plan.
making sure everybody who's new and everybody
Mm.
understands. I know you guys understand it. This isn't your first rodeo.
Bill?
Can't believe I'm gonna ask this question. I know we all love Pia,
Mhm.
but we're really gonna be paying $1 million truck. There's no question. No question. So if we looked at E1.
We haven't, and I'm happy to. I am more than,
If it's about 100,000 cheaper, I
Mhm.
mean, you're gonna pay $1 million truck, so.
Yeah.
But.
They're only gonna let us keep on 15 years.
I hate to say, you know, something other than a Pierce, but maybe
I know.
together.
Yep.
I'll let you echo that comment a little bit. In our experience at the utility district, we standardized years ago on flight pumps. They're twice what we paid for from Myers. And it was competition that did it.
Mhm.
So I think we should find out what the difference in price is.
And don't get me wrong, I hate, no international Fords, you know, they're not made to be fire trucks. You gotta get a fire truck.
No, I'm not saying we go that route either, but America LaFrance or some of the other major.
They're out of business.
They're out of business. Okay.
They're harder to get parts for.
Hey, I had a really nice one in New Jersey, American France, and it cost money to have the parts manufactured because it was a good truck.
I hate to say it. but
I
I'm
know.
afraid you're gonna have to have some other pricing.
Did you have any other comment on what we put in this year's capital?
No, I would defer to you and Peg for whatever anticipated if we and the voters decide to go ahead, that we would have enough in there for the initial payment.
So in here right now, we have communications, updates, radio and pagers. We
Mm.
have that for 18,000. $1,500 for a potential command vehicle, and we do have $25,000 in there just as, for the engine 3 replacement. And we also have 12,500 for other capital projects, and that's because we've been putting 25 in there. And because of the 18, we moved things around. Because that was something we had committed to doing as we look on our giant valve scope sheet over there. And you don't have any issues with any of those?
No.
Going back to the truck, and maybe it's not appropriate, are we gonna have another meeting just to talk about the truck?
I would say that after we get through all
With
of
this
this,
year's budget,
we will
or-
definitely, just like we did with the ambulance purchase, we'll have a special budget committee meeting.
would
Talk
that
about
be a separate issue from setting the town warrant, or?
I don't know that we're in a position this year does anybody want to talk about? I did not include the purchase of the truck in the 2025 budget.
But we have $25,000 budgeted for it, right?
Right. And I
Okay.
did that because of where the way interest rates were. It's giving us flexibility if we're starting to save. It puts a number there to it.
Yep.
You may want to, if you
Sure.
want to have that conversation, we can have that further conversation, but this was.
Well, it sounds like we is there any doubt we need a truck anyways? And soon? We need to buy the truck.
That's my recommendation to the town, yes,
How
So,
we do it's another story.
correct.
right,
I think that's the.
would it be like with the ladder truck, would we have a separate vote to acquire the truck? The town vote on it?
So depends how we do it. If we're gonna lease it or we're gonna bond it, I mean, I think that is what that meeting would have to be devoted. I don't know.
Okay, so my question is, how do we deal with it in this budget that we're working on right now?
My recommendation.
$25,000.
That's what I came up with without being able to have the benefit of all of these discussions.
Okay,
I was not anticipating it being in the 2025 budget. I was anticipating it being in the 2026 budget. But,
in its entirety.
well, I don't know, because I haven't had that we haven't had that conversation.
Like Paul said, that 3 years out, we could still save $50,000 or $100,000 in the next 2 or 3 years before it's even gonna get here.
Yeah,
So we may not have to finance
We gotta
all,
put it- we have money down though.
right, but you're not gonna have to finance all $1 million, it'd be only 700,000.
yeah. So if we
that'd be
pre-order it
bond
now, in this coming year, or as soon as we get the money for it, how much money do we have to put down when we order the truck?
Well, I don't know that, and you know, like, this is the project I'm concerned with, and I know that Julie's concerned with a lot of capital projects. So I don't have that
I don't,
number, we haven't had that.
we haven't even, I mean, he would have to go to Pierce, and if you want him to look at the others, we're gonna have to, that's not something that's gonna be on this warrant.
Okay, I'm just wondering when we could order the truck or sign the agreement.
I don't
A
even know what
truck.
truck we would be
Right.
buying.
What's the time frame on that? Do you predict? Like this coming year
The infor-
sometime?
The information from Pierce we can get ready. The truck committee met with our rep. They've got a spec that's there. It's a year old, so it'll have to be updated. But from Pierce will be no problem. We can get that in a short amount of time. It's gonna be going to E1 and probably HME or somebody else to get some additional ones that would take some time.
Peg, what did you say when we financed the 2020 Pearson Forcer? And we did, let's say, we did the same. Put money down on it. What was the first payment?
110,
110,000, and that was when interest rates were.
4.57.
So it gives us an idea of where.
About that is they're so familiar with towns that you could say, okay, we want our first payment to be after July 1st.
Yeah.
And then we've benefited from that conversation, so.
So it gives us an idea. You know what interest rates are. Right?
That was on a million, so.
Correct, Brendan.
Yep, Paul, when was your last price update from Pierce?
Well, I've talked with him
Yeah, yeah,
on the phone and they haven't rerun the spec because I didn't ask them to do that because, again, you know, we don't know when this is gonna happen. If this is something that you discussed with Julie and she says that, you know, it might be in July after the fiscal year, I can get that in from,
but you have an idea of what it would be today, let's say?
yeah, it's gonna be right around $1 million.
Okay, so the price has gone up by $150,000 in 12 months. So if we drag our feet and kick the can for a while, we can bring it up another 150,000, can't we?
I don't,
But you guys have to realize too, is
Yeah.
that typically we have a very long conversation about this. And I understand that everybody wants to,
No, all I'm just trying to do is say, can we, if we're gonna do something, can we just keep it moving rather than,
well, I think So I've never been one to not move something.
All right.
I don't think. But I do think we have to be mindful that we've got a lot of flux going on and change. And, you know, if we're gonna go, and I lived through some of you lived through the purchase of the ladder truck. It was at times contentious. So we have to move forward in a way that is responsible and realize that we're going out and asking the public for a lot of money. So I appreciate, we don't want to cause more money to be used. And there's like this thing deadline we have to meet, but we also have to research the others. And I don't know how long it would take E1 or KME. We're not gonna let it lay, I can tell you that, but I do not anticipate this being on a June warrant. I'm just being honest. I just don't know how we do that quickly. But we have a November warrant where we're going to have the largest turnout. There's a presidential election. Didn't know if anybody knew that. Amazing. That we could potentially get something like that on. And honestly, I think Paul needs to talk about the truck. I think you have to hear from the truck committee members at an actual presentation. And I do think that can happen regardless of what your manufacturer is.
Mhm.
Right?
Yes.
Because you're going to explain the use of the truck and why you picked that special truck.
Are we gonna be able to apply for the grant like we did for the ladder truck?
We already did.
How'd that work?
Uh,
Oh,
We-
just apply.
well, no, but we've been applying.
We
understand that.
Every year I apply for
We
it
got
and
close with the ladder.
ladder truck, we were right there. And, no, we've applied
Make sure that happens.
every year since then. We've applied and, Max and I literally just finished the grant last week, submitted it, so.
So let's assume you get the grant. Let's just give something. When would they award?
It would be within the 12 months.
Within 12 months from now?
Yeah.
And to get the grant, you have to specify and have committed to a particular piece of equipment?
We did in the application, we did, yes.
So you, in essence, at least as far as the grant is concerned, locked into a price.
As far as the grant's concerned, yeah. Mhm.
As far as the grant is concerned, you're locked in. What percentage is that grant for the finance? 100%, 50%?
Whatever the award comes out. One of Julie's and my complaints about that particular grant process is that it's an all or nothing grant. And I would be much happier if every municipality got $250,000 towards a truck rather than Portland always getting $1 million towards a truck.
This is the bane of existence of every fire chief who applies for this grant. It's ridiculous.
You know, if they just take that huge pot and split it up amongst all of us, we'd all benefit from it. But they do complete funding of one project,
This is really.
federal government.
Yeah, it'd be worth it. Get representatives and congressmen or
Mhm.
senators down there. Maybe that's something. that could work.
Mhm.
Well, it's a national program where we compete nationally with this, and it has
But there
been
must be
a,
money allocated to Maine
but it's,
through this.
I don't think you could just do it that way for me. You can't just say, well, Maine's gonna do it this way. It would have to be changed nationally for every, and I can guarantee you that the fire chiefs in New Jersey feel the same way the fire chiefs in New Jersey, so.
So I hate to keep beating this, but I'm not getting a complete answer. My concern is that we have enough money in the capital or some other mechanism so that if we decide to buy, which truck we decide to buy, whenever we do, we are ready to buy it and we have the money.
He's talking about the first payment.
Yes, yes.
Still don't.
So you'd have to add, if you wanted
So-
to say $100,000, you'd have to add,
Well,
We need more
well,
than
you
that.
have.
we have
50
50,
We have
and
to,
25,
so we'd have to
so
add
70.
25
Yeah,
more.
but our first payment, last one was how much again?
110.
All right, so if we don't have that money in the budget, how are we going to lock in a price and get the ball moving on the truck?
Make the first payment. Use fund balance.
Well,
The money should be in the budget, though.
then you can add that. You can add that into that budget. If you want that $110,000, you can add it in there.
Is there a way to do it without adding that in? That won't slow down the process when we make the
You
decision.
can add that in tonight if you wanted to add that in tonight.
I'm saying, is there another way? Obviously, you didn't want to
Once
add
the
that
budget
in,
is,
but
so it's not like I don't want to do things.
no, sure. but You chose not to, for some reason.
Okay, so I chose because this is a discussion that all of you had to have. So if you want to add that, that's why I put the $25,000 in, was because we need to have the discussion about it.
Placeholder. Okay,
I
Alright.
don't, it's not that I don't want it or I do want it, it's that you all have to have that discussion and decide how you wanna go. If we put the 110,000, it doesn't matter if it's a Pierce, a KME, or a, hang on.
if they're ready to go and we can make a deal.
But it doesn't matter, but we can have that discussion.
Okay. I think we should have money in the budget to do something that we decide to do. If we don't have the money in the budget, then I suppose we can't order the truck or enter a contract. So we do have the money, right?
Right, we have to have the down payment if we're going that way.
So if we don't put it in here, we'd have to have we wanted to do it in November, put it on the November ballot, we'd have to have an extra expenditure vote for the town then to add the
You
money.
could do it then too, yes, you could technically. But we also don't know I haven't had a conversation with the leasing company for Pierce. I haven't had a conversation in years about a lease with E1 or KME for that matter. So I'm 15 years out of it. So I'd have to reacquaint myself with what their programs are too. So, I'm just trying to explain that I can't have this all done. I don't think anybody can have it all done by April 15th to then put it on the June ballot. you could-
That's not what I'm saying.
Right, but you
Yeah.
could, if you
I
wanted to, put
understand.
money in there, whether, and say you guys decide, you know what, we're not even gonna finance it. We're gonna just save and we're gonna give ourselves a few extra years, whether you wanted to or not. At least then you have that money in there. It stays in that line item. It's earmarked for that replacement.
Yeah, and it's a painful budget, but every year after now is gonna be a painful budget too, and we need the truck. I haven't heard that we can get by without the truck.
Does this mean that we have 75,540 in the engine 3 line?
No, we have 50,540.
just budgeted this year. The 25.
Okay, right, okay, that's what I meant was. At the end, if this budget passes, that's what it would say, so
Yeah.
it's cumulative. Okay, that was my.
And Val, I was in the same situation. I discussed it with Julie, why can't we put at least enough in there to cover the down
You
payment
can.
and do it that way?
Yeah.
But if, and it wouldn't matter what we bought for a vehicle.
If we put it in
Right.
there and don't use it, it's not going anywhere.
No, it's gonna
So
just-
gonna
Right.
sit there, so put it in there. Oh, and then it's there if we need it.
I would recommend making that 100,000 versus 725.
So, and I think we can't
Regardless.
lose sight of that other truck. And I know that there's been conversations. Is it a 2 truck? Can we replace one with 2? I think that's a whole nother meeting. We have to have that conversation. there's a lot to vet out here. I don't have a problem with you guys putting anything in that line item, but the capital, yeah. I just think that we all have to have, not at 9, 10 at night, an actual conversation with Paul and his group and go through their thought process of what they need. And if you want to put that money in, we can. I don't even think that has to be done tonight, but we needed to start that conversation.
They're all here.
Keep in mind, I don't wanna put any. The word I'm looking for,
Not sure.
putting rotten apples in the bucket, but remember, we got other capital stuff that's gotta get done too. Paving.
I just don't want to make the LCTV issue of, we send Paul away, we're putting money in your budget, but then we got all.
Yeah,
this
right,
other
I know,
stuff.
and
Yeah.
that's just, that back of your head too, because we're gonna have other capital stuff we're gonna have.
I love roads. You know what I really love is things that stop my house from burning down. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
But just so you're aware, we have the capability of stopping your house burn down right now, do we not?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking long-term, I want.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I
You're
didn't want
close,
you
you're close.
leaving
I said
thinking
that
that
too
you-
late.
I sit down for
Derek
you,
will
the
be there.
expense of a
Will you
terrible
be there,
joke.
Derek? Will you be there? Amelia will be there.
No, I got trust.
Sure, capital.
So we don't have to do this tonight, so we can do it.
Schedule.
No, because I think
Really need
we
that.
typically go through all of them before we
Make a motion.
make a,
I can't, I'm on the budget.
I'm on the same line as you, Val, is putting money in there.
Yeah, we definitely.
And maybe not
Yeah, we
even
gotta put money in there.
100,000,
We
maybe.
Pull the trigger, we get the money.
right.
I make a motion to add $75,000 to the 2024 budget, 2025 budget.
Be more specific.
On line item 44, the 1990 Pierce pumper, engine number 3 has $50,540. And with 25,000 for the 25 budget, I make a motion to increase that to $75,000
75?
to 75, which would give us a balance of 125,
But we're not voting
$125,000.
each, we're not voting each line item,
Correct.
but it's
Just
just to
this.
change this
Yes.
one.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any more discussion? I hope not. Seeing none, all those in favor of changing that to 75,000?
You're changing the 57,000 to 75?
No.
Okay,
25,000.
25s.
2025 from 25 to 75,000.
Okay. Just double checking, thank you.
Yeah, well,
And we'll talk about the fund balance later.
correct.
Do fire total though? I have 107.
Julie, what do you got there?
I thought I had, but I thought I had 107,000 even.
No,
It does, his motion was to to make it 75,000 instead of 25.
it's 50.
Oh, there you go.
Right, so the fire would go up
Thank you.
50,000.
Actually, correct.
Not Rupert.
Thank you,
is it?
Paul.
I sit on back.
My wife's home chewing a coffee by now.
I can't vote, so I go in anyway.
Thank you, Brendan.
Thanks, Brendan.
Yes.
Careful.
That puts an exclamation point. on it.
I can't stress this enough, guys. I mean, admittedly, yes, that's poignant. But we still go and put out fires with the equipment that we currently have. I think somebody's waving at.
Oh, Mr. Maxwell.
And on Julie's note, that's 100% true. And the number one issue, I think, and she'll agree, and then probably John will too, it's the staffing, the volunteers. We got nice equipment out there. But if you don't have the people, drive that nice $1 million fire truck. We can get another $1 million truck and another $1 million truck. But if you don't have the people,
And I think I understand what you're saying is.
and
if
that's
this truck
how the
is like-
public.
Right, if this truck takes care of two trucks versus one, we may not need the other truck.
But I think you also have to face the fact that if we're spending money and buying trucks, and then next year you get the full-time fire request of personnel,
It's gonna piss off the public.
but what I'm saying, but this conversation is very large and there's a lot of tentacles to it. Because last year was the request for part-time per diem firefighters. We've got this truck issue coming up. We have a staffing issue that they're going to make very public. If we're spending money and, you know, that was what, 200 and I forget how much it was last year, because it's
Over
over
$200,000.
$200,000 for per diem firefighters. So I'm just saying, we've got to really be thoughtful and really sit down with him and his staff and figure out what is this leading to? Because my fear is buying fire trucks and not having the ability. I don't want to buy fire trucks and then not have personnel.
I totally agree. But we need to be able to buy the fire truck if we decide that's what the best course of action
I
is.
completely understand that, but I don't know what that number was. So that's why the 25,000 was put in there and that's
Yep.
why we had the discussion.
Appreciated.
I appreciate everybody not wanting to, if we wait, we're going to spend more money. I just want to make sure the money we're spending is the right money.
If I may,
That's all.
if that makes the department have to go with an E1 and save, they're gonna have
No,
to.
it is. We
Seriously.
have to. I know.
I'm not saying I agree with it, but they might have to go.
This is 4 years out, right?
You guys have made a motion. Well, yeah. Potentially.
It was ordered the end of this year. It would be 4 years coming. 2 to 4.
No matter what it is, it's gonna.
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, how long is the ambulance? How long would
It's
you
still
wait?
waiting.
We're
aren't
still
they?
waiting.
Yeah, I mean, how long
It's going on 2 years.
Okay, yeah.
It's a lot of very specific application.
You're right, the price hasn't gone up, but we have to make sure, in my humble opinion, we have to make sure that we are buying what is required for what service we're trying to provide, and that we have the ability, and that's a hard conversation. They're going out into the public and saying, hey, it's gonna take us X amount of minutes to get here. We need volunteers. And then on the other hand, you're gonna say, so we have to be thorough and so does Paul and his staff has to do the due diligence. Because this has to be out there and presented to the public in a way that makes sense to the public. That's all. I know I sound like I'm always the wet blanket saying tapping the brakes, but
I mean, it's a great point. You're exactly right.
it's a hard argument to have.
But it's up to you, Val, now. Sorry.
One more. Yet not to beat a dead horse, but, and I think John might agree. In Waldeboro, we have places that these trucks that are out there now really shouldn't be going. Not everybody lives on Route 1. And you gotta understand that some of these big trucks, and we don't know what they wanna replace engine 3, how much bigger than the ladder truck is that gonna be? And you're not really gonna get. Well, you should, you gotta take that consideration. So maybe another alternative is a small mini pumper. Cause you gotta take care of all of them, just not.
Right.
Route 1.
Well, and I think that that's why it's necessary to sit down and have a conversation with all of his staff. That's why I appreciate everybody's enthusiasm, but I just wanted to just temper the, everybody's gotta, We've gotta make sure we're doing the right thing.
Love it. What the people say. You get, budget committee got a motion?
Not yet.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn.
Hey, we gotta vote on that.
You gotta vote on the other things.
We gotta vote on that. 75.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta vote on the 75,000 Val.
We gotta, I gotta make a motion, 75K of that line item that you wanted.
I just think it's prudent.
No, it's a great idea. Anybody second? Okay,
Okay.
second, great. Vote.
Those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, and 1 absent. He would have voted for
Now
it.
you can make a motion to adjourn. Somebody.
Yeah, that's, sounds like a good idea. Anyone, motion to adjourn? Thank you, Ben.
Somebody make a motion.
Scott, are you gonna second it? We got a motion to adjourn. Okay, all in favor?
Not to adjourn.
Oh, well, the select board-
All in favor? Ben, you in favor?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So moved.